presentation of Fox Sports.
We are La Force. We are Minnesota.
Drive to right center field, and that's over the head of Naquin. Great stop at first by Park. Down the left field line. And Park delivers the RBI to put the Twins in front.
This could be the start of something big for Byung Ho Park. This Sunday, Tigers and Twins game is presented by Super America. Get your Knothole Kids Day vouchers at any local Super America. Another beautiful day for baseball at Target Field, where this afternoon the Twins face the Tigers in the final game of their weekend series. Two familiar faces on the mound here today. Former Twin Mike Pelfrey looking for his first win of the season with the Tigers. Ricky Nolasco for Minnesota, the Twins' most consistent starter this season. We welcome you to Twins baseball on Fox Sports North. Byung Ho Park is still learning a new language here in Minnesota, but so far, at least the first 4 weeks of the season, his power requires no translation, Roy.
Hits the ball an awful long way. 6 home runs in the month of April, and he does it with an amazing ability to get his arms extended into the pitch. He gets a mistake, and that watch where his arms go. That is terrific power extension, and he finishes it off with lightning fast wrist bend and cock through the swing. Just tremendous extension from that, and this is the classic power swing right there. Look at the underneath arm, underneath and extending right back through the ball. You wonder how in the world can hit a ball 400 feet to the opposite field, 480 feet to the center field, over the center field fence. It's because of that extension right there. He sets up every pitch to extend his arms and then whip the bat through the zone. It gets going really, really fast, and it's the bat speed that provides the power.
Park's home runs have traveled an average of 428 feet this season. Up next, Dick Bremer, Jack Morris examine the reasons why Ricky Nolasco has been the Twins' most steady starter this year.
Fox Sports North is presented by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. By Jeep. Visit Jeep.com to learn more. And by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine for the everyday competitor in all of us. After an awful April, the Twins have turned the page. They've turned the calendar page, and Ricky Nolasco hopes to get the month of May started with his best start this year here at Target Field. And good Sunday afternoon to you from Target Field. Dick Bramer along with Jack Morris bringing you the final game of this series and this homestand. And the Twins have not played well this year, but they hope today Ricky Nolasco can continue to give the Twins a good start.
Ricky's been the Twins' best pitcher so far. He probably deserves more than just the one win that he has right now. And it's due in part to the fact that he's been able to command his fastball more in the strike zone with good movement. He has got a great curveball, a great slider. He's been using that as effective, if not more effective than he has in the past. But it's the fastball that sets up those two breaking balls that I think that has helped Ricky with his success this year.
Now the Twins haven't won a ball game against Detroit, haven't had a lead because the Tigers have jumped on them early.
And that's going to be the key for Ricky. Get through the first inning. Get the boys in the dugout without a run score, because the Tigers are swinging it very, very well right now, up and down the lineup, I think. You mentioned it to me before. It's about when you play a team, and the Tigers are hot right now with their bats.
Well, today's Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Clean Chris Coors Light, and the Twins have this going for them. Mike Pelfrey has not gotten one run of support yet this year.
It's hard to win with that, even for Mike. Mike's had a lot of, well, he's got a lot of friendships, I should say, both in the new Tiger uniform and across the diamond in the Twins locker room. Mike Pelfrey was one of the more popular guys. His problem is he hasn't won a lot of games, and he's looking for his first win. Twins know him quite well. They know that he's going to attack with a fastball. It's going to be a slow-paced game, and they're going to have to be patient and hope for a pitch they can handle.
Twins finished with a .500 record in their first homestand of the year. That's all they can get in this second homestand. They'll need a win here this afternoon in the finale with the Detroit Tigers. to you, and happy May Day to Joe Mauer and the Twins as well. It worked last year. Twins got off to a terrible start last year, and there was really no hint toward the end of April that May would be what it turned out to be, a 20-win month. They won more games in May than any other team in the major leagues, and unfortunately the Twins are in a situation now where they are hoping for a similar month. It's been kind of a hot and cold season for Brad Ausmus and the Tigers, but right now they're hot.
Tigers are swinging it very, very well. There's no question about that.
And they come back with this starting lineup again today. Ian Kinsler leading off, then J.D. Martinez, Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, Justin Upton, Nick Castellanos, Jared Saltalamacchia. We got to use smaller letters just to get his name on the lineup sheet there. Anthony Goes and Jose Iglesias.
They're going to be facing Twins' hottest pitcher, the best pitcher of the month of April, Ricky Nolasco, taking the hill for the Twins. He's only at the one win, and we talked about on the pregame that Ricky probably deserves 3 or 4 of those wins. He's pitched that well, and he's going to face a very hot-hitting Detroit Tiger lineup.
Ian Kinsler, J.D. Martinez, Miguel Cabrera in the first, and Nolasco would love it if he just faced 3 men. The Tigers got 3 runs in the first on Friday, never looked back. 3 runs in the first yesterday, and never looked back again. And a belt high strike, and Kinsler looks back at Brian Gorman in disbelief. He'll call balls and strikes. Mike DeMuro at first, Ryan Blackney at second, and Quinn Wolcott at third. Ball hit to right field, and Arcia comes in to squeeze it, 1 down. In Nolasco's last start, it was one of those starts you talked about where he probably deserved a better fate. He gave up just 5 hits, and 4 of the hitters scored. Some extra base hits in there. But in his 7 complete innings pitched, he got an out in the 8th inning. In his 7 complete innings pitched, he had 4 1-2-3 innings. And getting an out in the 8th inning these days is almost like a complete game back in your day.
Well, the way the game's played, there's no question very few guys get that deep. But Ricky, as we watch him pitch here early in this ball game, he's going with the fastball command.
To right center field. Santana going back near the track. Out number 2.
And that's a good plan for Ricky. He's attacking the strike zone early.
4 pitches, 2 outs. Northland Fort defense for the Minnesota Twins. Miguel Sano back in the infield with Rosario, Santana, and Arcia across the outfield. Sano and Escobar left side of the infield. Dozier, Mauer on the right side. Kurt Suzuki behind the plate. So far so good. 2 up, 2 down. But then the Twins in last night's game gave up, or in yesterday's game, gave up a big 3-run home run after the second out. All 4 Tiger runs scored yesterday after the second out of an inning. 1-0 to Cabrera. And a strike.
Ricky flipping a couple breaking balls into Miguel Cabrera to start him off there early in this ball game.
Fouled away. This is the Ricky Nolasco the Twins thought they signed over 2 years ago. He's healthy. He's pitched deep into the ball games, at least by today's standards, and given his team a chance to win every time out. 1-2 to Cabrera. Back to the mound, and that first inning couldn't have gone any better for Ricky Nolasco as the Tigers go down 1-2-3. Familiar name and face taking the mound for the Tigers, former Twin Mike Pelfrey. within the Twins clubhouse. Mike Pelfrey in his 3 years with the Twins might have been one of the more popular Twins players, and now he'll pitch against the Twins. Twins hoping to get back to the 500 mark at home with this Menards batting order. Danny Santana, Brian Dozier, Joe Mauer, Miguel Sano of Young Hole Park, Oswaldo Arcia, and then Eduardo Escobar, Kurt Suzuki, and Eddie Rosario.
And the aforementioned Mike Pelfrey taking the mound for the Detroit Tigers today. He was a popular player and a great teammate. Mike is a very likable guy, and he's no longer wearing a Twins uniform, not because of that, because he had a tough time figuring out a way to win, and that continues in a Tigers uniform.
And a half swing and a strike, 0-2 quickly to Santana. And the first inning yesterday, Santana tried to bunt his way aboard. He eluded Cabrera's tag, who fielded the bunt, but then he failed to touch first base with his hand. And now it's 0-2 from Pelfrey. Pounded foul. You don't expect Pelfrey to strike out a lot of batters. Of course, the Twins lineup very strikeout prone, but so far for Pelfrey, 4 starts, 21 1/3 innings, and more walks than strikeouts, 12-9. One start he walked 6, next start he walked 5. And you know, he prior to his last start had went through a little bit of a mechanical change, and the results were a little encouraging, I think, for the Tigers.
One of the main issues Mike has had, and it's pretty much been his entire career, number one, he's had issues with his health, as Santana taps one foul, but he's also had issues with pace of game, and Twins did everything in the world to try to speed him up. He does a lot of thinking once he's behind in counts and has a little tough go of it where he has base runners. He really slows down, and they wanted him to work faster, and I'm sure that continues also with Detroit. But you know, when you don't have run support and you're never taking the mound with a lead, it makes it tough on a pitcher, because you're thinking too much sometimes. You're thinking that every pitch is going to be critical, and to be for Mike, he would just like to see a run period this year, but for the Twins, they need to get on the board first also.
3 2-strike fouls for Santana in this at bat. It's 1-2. It's called third strike, and Pelfrey gets a strikeout of Santana for the first out of the first inning.
Well, he throws a fastball in the inner part where it started off of the inside part of the plate, off in the ball zone, and basically moved back in. That's that kind of running fastball that he can start inside, and it catches the inside corner.
And now Dozier. And he takes a fastball, strike 1. Plenty of velocity there for Pelfrey. Can still throw in the mid-90s. He's developed that split change that he used at times effectively last year. And Dozier takes 1-1. Dozier's average down to 191.
Tigers playing him straight away. A lot of times they'll shift with Brian Dozier.
2-1.
You can see the infield and the outfield pretty much straight away for Doge.
Off the plate now, 3-1. Mauer on deck.
And that's also been another issue as we watched that last pitch. Mike Pelfrey threw the ball very, very hard. He kept it down in the zone, but he missed off the plate, and it's partly because of the movement he has. He needs to center the ball more in the middle of the plate and let it move within the strike zone.
Fouled away, 3-2.
He's always been too fine with his pitch delivery and location.
Take a look at the Tigers out in the field, same as yesterday. Upton, Goes, Martinez, the outfielders. Castellanos, Iglesias, Kinsler, Cabrera, the infielders. Tigers have turned 31 double plays already on the year. Saltalamacchia behind the plate. Full count to Dozier with 1 gone on the Twins first. Wrapped to short. Iglesias backhands. Perfect throw across the diamond. 2 down. That'll bring up Joe Mauer, hitting at .321 with 20 walks on the year. He's reached in every game.
The best in the game right now with on-base percentage. 24 straight games where he's been on base. And Joe's he's having a remarkable start, really. It's very refreshing. And a team that's been scuffling to get wins, Joe Mauer is not part of the reason.
Strike on the outside corner. As we talked about yesterday, Joe feeling so good at the plate. We've seen a lot of deep counts, and the hits have come very often with the count 3-1, 3-2. And a rifle shot to center. And Mauer looking like the Mauer of a few years ago, a 2-out single.
Well, after a leadoff strike, Pelfrey tried to come in on Joe, and Joe just is ready for it. A lot like in the first game of this series. Joe just turns great. It's just a beautiful swing right there. He pulls his hands in enough, and yet still hits down on the ball.
And this consecutive game streak where he has reached base, very often the matter is settled in his first at bat. Now here is Sano with a man aboard. This is where things have changed for Pelfrey, at least when he was with the Twins, with men on base. The pace.
Yeah, this is where it slows down.
1-0 to Sano.
The way Mauer has been getting on base, especially early in the game, you wonder if Paul thinks about leading him off.
Off the plate, 2-0.
I know they want him in the second or third spot in the lineup for a lot of reasons, hoping that Santana and Dozier can reach base, but during this stretch where Dozier's really struggled, it's certainly a question people might think about.
2-0. Check swing, but he went 2-1. You've seen a couple of examples already where Pelfrey has such big late movement on his ball. In Sano's case, he started to offer at it, and then he saw or recognized the movement and that the pitch was going to dart out of the strike zone, but he couldn't check in time. 2-1. Nearly hit him. 3-1 with Park on deck.
Mike Pelfrey, we were talking, Dick, before the game, and he's one of those rare guys that has always, let's put it this way, a lot of guys might not be in the game with the numbers that Mike Pelfrey has put up, but the fact that you see pitches like that previous one, and he's 6'7" and he can throw the ball in the mid-90s, it's almost like he's still a young guy with potential. As he walks, yeah, and here is a part of his problem. This is with 2 quick outs. Mike Pelfrey now has 2 guys on base with a pretty darn good hitter himself, Byung-Ho Park, coming out.
Quick trip to the mound by Saltalamacchia. In his 3 years with the Twins, to underscore your point, Pelfrey had a 1-loss record of 11-27. with an ERA of 4.94. And yet, because of what you mentioned and the fact he was a good clubhouse guy, the Tigers gave him 2 years.
Yeah,
at a pretty hefty salary.
At $8 million a year. You know, that's not chump change.
Here is Park. 6 home runs to lead the team. All 6 have come with the bases empty. And there is ball 1. Now, one of the reasons the Tigers were enamored with Pelfrey is he does not typically give up many home runs. So while you think, boy, a 3 spot here would be nice off the bat of Park, one of the reasons Pelfrey has hung around as long as he has, he generally keeps the ball in the ballpark. Swing and a foul, 1-1.
This is yesterday. Byung-Ho Park gets a fastball from Jordan Zimmerman that went into the bullpen out there in left center field. Another significant home run for him. Number 6 on the year.
1-1 to Byung-Ho Park. Change up down and away. And it's 1-2.
Yeah, that's what he calls a split finger fastball. It's more like a changeup. I've watched Mike several times in the bullpen throwing it, and it's not a true forkball or a true split finger because he doesn't get his fingers through the ball. He throws it more off to the side, and it comes out of his hand more like a changeup, and that's what he uses it for, is that off-speed pitch.
Checked his swing on a pitch up high. 2-2. Twins with a 3-game losing streak, and the losing streak started when the Twins, got 3 runs in the first inning with Jose Barrios on the mound. The lead didn't last. The Twins lost the finale against the Indians and have not had a lead yet in this series. Full count, and the runners will leave early now. Pelfrey was so close to having a quick first inning, and now you look up, he's thrown 25 pitches and might not get out of this inning unscathed. Twins have made him work. We'll see if there's a payoff at the end here. Bounce to the right side and through for a hit. Bauer will score. Sano to third. And the Twins have their first lead of this series.
Well, anybody that knows anything about Mike Pelfrey would know that that was going to be a fastball. He doesn't have enough confidence in his secondary pitches in a 3-2 count. And that ball was a fastball. And Park does a really good job of just keeping the head still and shooting the ball the other way. Kinsler had shaded him up the middle, and there was a nice hole there on the right side between Cabrera and Kinsler. And that puts the Twins on the board.
Oh, look at that. Most of his hits going to center field, now 3 to right field. Here is Arcia with 2 on and 2 out. Strike over the inside corner. Pull shift on against Arcia. A lot of room on the left side of the infield. And Arcia hits one to center. Goes coming over. Can't make the play. Knocks it down. Sano scores. And Arcia delivers an RBI hit. It's 2-0. Goes very fortunate that ball didn't bounce past him. And everything that's happened here for the Twins in the plus column has happened after the second out.
We have a tremendous vantage point here in our booth, and I was watching Anthony Gose. He got a late break on this and then tried to make up for it with his sure speed, but wasn't able to even get to it. And you're absolutely right. He was lucky that he was able to knock that ball down. Otherwise, it would have been another run.
Here's Escobar. Since the second out, single walk, single. And none of the 3 hits pulled at all. Down and away, ball 1. Two and 0.
Eduardo Escobar had a nice day last night. I guess that wasn't right. He had a nice night last night.
Yeah.
3 hits, all singles.
Look at that, Jack. 30 pitches in the first inning. 2 on the board.
We've seen this before.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. Knocked down by Cabrera, and Escobar is out at first, and I think that'll be challenged. A head first slide looked like it beat the throw, but we'll see whether the Twins challenge. And Paul Molitor wants to challenge the play right away, wanting the Tigers to stay on the field.
From our vantage point, and we haven't seen it yet, but it sure looked like he had beat the throw.
In this case, you can see Cabrera's glove move when the ball is nestled in the webbing. That's going to be very close.
Yeah, it's
remember
not
the other day.
evidence.
Remember the other day the Twins challenged in the first inning and lost. I think he's going to be safe. But again, the original call was out, and the Twins will let it ride rather than lose the challenge in the first inning. On a very close play, they'll accept the out call and send Nolasco out to the mound with a 2-0 lead. Two-0 Twins in front. Oswaldo Arcia with an RBI single. Before that, Byung-Ho Park got his first hit with a man in scoring position this year. And so Mike Pelfrey got off the mound finally in a play that was very, very close. And had the call gone the other way, or if the inning had continued, the Twins would have been able to add at least one more run. As it is, Victor Martinez, who's been white hot in this series, will lead off the second with the Twins in front 2-0.
I take that that's even hotter than red hot.
Yes, yes.
He's been swinging it, no question. He's a professional hitter.
And a strike now, 1-1. The Twins continue to shift him to the pull side, even though he's slashed a couple of opposite field doubles. And again, the inside corner.
You bring up a great point that really leads to a question about the shift as Miguel Sano now goes back over to third. They take the shift off. Is part of the reasons on certain hitters like Martinez that they put the shift on, they want you to go the other way. They don't want you to pull the ball because they know the damage you could do. And they figure if you pull it, there's a chance you could hit it in the seats. So they're happy with you beating the shift going the other way.
But then within that, it's the pitcher that's obligated to pitch into the shift, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to pitch him away and the shift is to pull, it's up to the hitter to adjust.
Down and in, 2-2.
It's almost like you're saying, we'll give you that. But if you pitch him in and you're playing him to pull, you know, then you're hoping that he hits it at one of the guys that you shifted for.
Nolasco had a quick 1-2-3 first inning. This just his 14th pitch in the ball game. Tap foul. Martinez struck out a couple of times yesterday. You don't see that very often. So Nolasco figures to have a tough time with him here today. It'll be Victor Martinez, Justin Upton, and Nick Castellanos. Now down and away, 3-2.
You talked about Martinez striking out off of Tyler Duffy yesterday. Tyler Duffy and Ricky Nolasco have a lot of the same pitches. They both have a plus curveball, breaking ball, slider that they like to go to. That's their go-to pitches. But this year, Ricky's got a little bit better velocity.
High right center field and deep. Santana looking up, and that ball's high off the wall and over Santana's head. And Martinez chugs into second base. Great at bat, but we've seen that countless times from Victor Martinez.
The way that ball ricocheted, it's almost like it might have been up in the flowers. But take a look at it right here. That ball was hit high off the wall.
Yeah, right off the top of the scoreboard.
Maybe.
And a long carom over Santana, but that was going to be a double. Probably even if Santana had collapsed in a heap on the warning track. Martinez at second with a leadoff double. Here's Justin Upton. Nolasco struck out 9 in his last start against the Indians. And now Upton shoots one to the opposite field. Charged by Arcia, and Martinez not going anyplace. So the Tigers going down 1-2-3 in the first inning, start the second inning with a pair of hits.
That would normally be enough to score a run right there, but Victor Martinez just jogs to third, knowing that there's no way that third base coach Dave Clark is going to wave him around. They're down by 2 runs, so they're going to take it bat to bat. Nick Castellanos has had a great start to his season now, and Justin Upton seems to really have been heating up now with a pair of hits in the first couple games.
You had Nick Castellanos leading the American League in hitting at the end of April, didn't you?
No, I did not, but I'm not all that shocked. He's a big, strong kid.
Inside, ball 1 has homered to straightaway center, and they say, the people who follow the Tigers on a daily basis, that he has always had tremendous power, and now he's using that power to the opposite field a lot more.
Yeah, I think watching J.D. Martinez of the last couple of years, Castellanos has got pretty much the same approach. And you were asking me about his strengths. J.D. goes, you know, he's got that opposite field power. Well, so does Nick Castellanos. He is a very strong kid.
Has improved defensively, dropped some weight in the offseason. 1-1. Twins will hope to get a double play grounder here, and there's a tapper foul. Now Castellanos, like just about every hitter these days, susceptible to striking out, and Nolasco could sure use one here. Castellanos has struck out 23 times in 80 at bats. Nolasco ahead, 1-2. Breaking ball hit to center. Santana has to drift back, and that will allow Martinez to tag and score. Ball again carried farther than it looked like initially when it left home plate, but then so did Martinez's double. Tigers are on the board on a sacrifice fly. It's 2-1.
I think it just shows how strong Castellanos is. He just flicked his wrist and threw the barrel of the bat at the ball. Was a little bit fooled, but that ball had a lot of carry out to center field.
Here is Jared Saltalamacchia. Not hitting for much in the way of batting average, but he does have 6 home runs and 15 runs batted in 56 at bats. Outside ball 1. Tigers are hoping that James McCann will rejoin the roster on Tuesday. After the game, the Tigers go to Cleveland. They'll enjoy an off day in Cleveland tomorrow. One 1-0. And now 2-0. And then they'll hope to have McCann back in the lineup Tuesday night. Tigers striking quickly. And Nolasco trying to do some damage control after a couple of hits to greet him at the start of the second inning.
Very, very quick first 5 outs of this ball game, and then the pace is really slowed down.
And now 3-0 to the Tiger catcher. Anthony goes on deck. There's the outside corner. Speedy goes on deck. And now 3-2.
Well, Ricky looking for maybe a breaking ball on this pitch, something that he can maybe get under the hands of Salty and get a ground ball double play. Being a catcher, he's average at best in running the bases. And a throw over here.
Tigers finally score for Mike Pelfrey, but they're still down a run. Pelfrey was fortunate to get out of that first inning with just 2 runs allowed. 3-2 to Saltalamacchia. Upton goes, and the pitch lifted foul over the tarp and out of play.
Well, that's kind of a run and hit situation where Brad Ausmus wants to get the runner started and Justin Upton to try to avoid the double play. The hitter, of course, just defending the count, trying to make contact.
Another 3-2 to Saltalamacchia. There goes again, swing and a miss. Suzuki's throw to the bag, safe at second base. A 1-hop throw, and Upton just barely beat it, at least according to second base umpire Ryan Blackney. Paul Molitor has a foot up above the top step, and doesn't look like they're going to challenge this one at all. Contact glove to runner wasn't made until after the boy, and that replay doesn't look quite so obvious. They're still looking into the Twins dugout. Joe Favre on the phone with Sean Harlan, the video coordinator for the Twins. And again, you have to allow for what the original call was. Nope, no challenge made. The Twins denying or declining rather to challenge in the bottom of the first, and now again here in the top of the second. Tying run at second, 2 down for Anthony Gose. Down and away, ball 1. This will be the 30th pitch of the inning of the game rather for Nolasco. Still fewer than what Mike Pelfrey threw in his first inning. Foul back, 1-1.
One of the byproducts of being able to review a play and have a challenge is there are times where the video crew for each team has to relay to the manager whether they should challenge it or not, and there's always that time gap there. We've seen it twice already where Paul has decided not to upon further review.
Breaking ball gets a weak ground ball over to Mauer. That ends the inning. Victor Martinez starts the inning with a double and then later scores for Detroit.
Bottom of the second here at Target Field, the Twins up 2-1 over the Tigers. Earlier today, I talked to Paul Molitor and Brian Dozier about what they expect to see from Mike Pelfrey, considering they know him so well. I expected both of them to talk about his best pitch or his poise on the mound. Well, instead, they both immediately brought up dinner reservations, or specifically lack thereof. They know they can't expect to get to dinner too quickly tonight in Houston because Mike Pelfrey likes to control the game. He likes to slow things down. So Dozier said the easiest way to get to him is force him to speed things up. That could be a huge factor today. Guys.
All right, thank you, Audra. Kurt Suzuki will lead off the second. He's just taken strike one. Bouncer to the right side. Easy play for Kinsler. He scoops and fires one away. What about that, Jack? I mean, for all the times we were on the air talking about Pelfrey and we talked about the slow pace of game, you know, he's had pitching coaches, I'm sure, tell him, hey, pick up the pace a little bit, but that doesn't seem to be something either he is capable of or that necessarily he wants to.
Very well put. I think it's a case where he either doesn't want to or he can't, because what Mike Pelfrey would probably need to do to really understand what they're talking about is make him play left field while he's pitching. And stand around for 20 minutes an inning, and watch 30 pitches. And I'm being hard on Mike. I do like him a lot. A great guy. But part of pitching is rhythm and getting the guys in and off the field. Tom Kelly used to preach it to us all the time. I think Sparky tried to preach it to us in Detroit in a different way, but Tom literally came out and said, your job is to get the boys into the dugout. Get out there, throw the ball over, and get them back into the dugout, because we cannot score when you're on the field.
1-1 to Rosario, hitting ninth. Swing and a miss. You worked that way, but I also thought, and maybe you had something to do with it, not a forgotten member, but a guy who didn't grab a lot of headlines. I always saw Kevin Tappan. He had a great tempo out there on the mound on that 91 World Championship team.
Well, Tapp had a great year. He was the pitcher of the month one month for the American League.
2-2.
You're absolutely right. I think he saw in some of the other guys throughout the league, and with Scott Erickson's success and the fact that I work quickly in some of those games, I think he saw that, look, I've got good enough stuff to do the same thing. And he went out there and attacked the strike zone, and guys love to play behind him.
2-2 to Rosario. High pop up, short center. And goes, stares up into the sun. Makes the catch for out number 2. And that'll get us back to Danny Santana. The Budweiser Roof Deck is the ultimate Minnesota Twins outdoor experience. The roof deck is available for your group of 250 guests on both Independence and Labor Day weekends. Your clients and staff will love the views, the large fire if there's a little nip in the air, everything you need for mixing game time with social time. Go to twinsbaseball.com/groups and find out more about the Budweiser Roof Deck. Here's Santana, called out on strikes, but he battled Pelfrey for a handful of pitches. I think, 3 2-strike fouls, and then finally on a 3-2 pitch, he ended up taking a called third strike. A foul ball for strike one here in the second inning. Up the middle and a base hit. Now remember what happened in the first inning. Pelfrey got a couple of quick first outs, and then Mauer singled to center, and 20 pitches later the Twins had 2 runs before the inning ended.
That was a very good at bat again from Danny Santana. He's just not trying to do too much. He's so quiet at the plate, and that's what I like about where he's at right now. That's the way he was a couple years ago when he hit over 300. He doesn't have a lot of movement, very little lower body movement at all. He uses his hands to make contact and doing what you're supposed to do with 2 strikes, hit the ball up the middle.
And a threat to steal, of course, especially with 2 outs. Dozier at the plate.
And one thing to be aware of is Jared Saltalamacchia has got a very good throwing arm. The problem is it's not very accurate. He can spray the ball all over out there when he tries to throw down to second base.
And a look over. dives back again. Twins with 14 steals in 20 attempts. You don't think you'd want to have less of than a 70% success rate. And there he goes right away, and Saltalamacchia won't even throw.
Great jump for Danny. I've talked to some people in Twins uniform, and I've said, rate Danny Santana on this ball club as far as total ability and skill, and I would put him right near the top as far as all the tools he has. He has a plus throwing arm, tremendous leg strength and speed, and he's a guy that can hit from both sides of the plate. So what he's doing right now is what the Twins hope he can do the rest of the year and beyond.
Dozier takes a strike on the outside corner, 1-1.
That stolen base obviously was against Mike Pelfrey. Pelf did not have a quick slide step to home, and Danny got a tremendous jump. Saltalamacchia could not even make an attempt.
Kinsler lined up almost directly behind the second base bag. Hit to the outfield should give the Twins another run. Down and away, 2-1.
And the pattern continues. You just talked about Mike Pelfrey having two quick outs to start this inning. He gets 2 strikes on Santana, a base hit, a stolen base. Now the pace slows down. Pitch count keeps climbing.
2-1. 3-1. Mauer on deck.
We've seen plenty of Mike Pelfrey over the years, and one thing that I can't mention enough is that instead of trying to hit 1/3 of the outside corner or 1/3 of the inside corner, he tries to put it on the black, and it inevitably goes on the outside of the strike zone off the plate for a ball, and it just doesn't serve the purpose that he should be getting. The results aren't there.
Line to Castellanos. Dozier hit it hard. Pelfrey survives the second inning, leaving Santana in scoring position. It's still 2-1 as we head to the third. Fox Sports North is presented by CenturyLink. Switch to CenturyLink Prism TV for an advanced TV experience. Learn more at cprismtv.com. 2-1 Twins, couple of first inning runs, and now Ricky Nolasco starting the top of the third inning, getting a foul ball off the bat of Jose Iglesias. Iglesias, Kinsler, and Martinez lined up to face Nolasco here in the third inning. Down and away, 1-1.
Iglesias did not play in the first game of the series, was hitless in yesterday's game. He can flash some leather, though.
We talked yesterday about the first base coach, the infield coach for the Tigers, Omar Vizquel, and I kind of flashed back to Vizquel's career when he was in his early years, as Iglesias is. So good with the glove, Vizquel was, that if he hit 220, 230, he could justify being in the lineup. And I think that's the way the Tigers have looked at Iglesias. But like Vizquel, Iglesias has turned himself into an accomplished hitter.
Tough man to strike out. He puts the ball in play. And he's got a short, quick swing. I mean, his approach is conducive to that kind of contact. But you're absolutely right. I mean, he hit 300 for most of the year last year. So Tiger fans, you know, are starting to expect some of that from him. He's hitting 268 as we speak.
Vizquel ended up getting 2,877 hits. Here's a soft liner, backpedaling. Dozier flips just barely in time, and Iglesias immediately points to the dugout. Dozier kind of backpedaled as he fielded that first hop. Wasn't able to get much on his throw, and we'll see if Iglesias beat it out or not.
Yeah, Brian Dozier kind of lets this ball play him, and then no panic, he just flips it underhand, kind of a lollipop throw over to Joe Mauer.
And this might be the same situation we had at the bottom of the first and top of the second. Well, no, the Tigers are going to ask.
They're going to ask.
Yeah, they're going to use a challenge here in the top of the third inning. And Iglesias is confident enough. He's taken off all his batting stuff and standing on first base.
He beat it. Whether they agree with that or not, sometimes you really have to have convincing evidence to overturn the ruling.
On the replay they showed here and what we've showed you on TV, it looks like Iglesias beat it. Here's a different angle. That is close, though.
Fuzzy on that one.
It looks like the ball had not gotten to Mauer's glove yet when the foot was on the bag.
That's the one that I think is the best angle. You can't really see it going to his glove here.
And I think he's going to be safe.
That doesn't mean they're going to rule that way.
No.
But it will have an outcome in this game as far as how this inning starts. You always want that leadoff guy to be out if you're on the mound. They always stress get that leadoff hitter, and it's either going to be an out or the leadoff hitter is going to be on first.
Well, guy on base. No, he's out. So the Tigers use their challenge, and this is the very outcome that the Twins ran into in DC last weekend and discouraged them from challenging either the call in the bottom of the first or top of the second. Now you're out of challenges, even though I thought he was safe. They did not feel there was enough evidence to overturn the original call, and now the Tigers will play the rest of the game, or at least till the seventh inning, without a challenge.
And I think it's important to remind the audience that the people that are actually reviewing the calls in New York are umpires whose friends are on the field. But it has to be convincing, and that's the key to it. And they don't feel it's, you know, 100% convincing. They're not going to change their minds.
Dozier calls off Mauer. 2 down. And that'll bring up Martinez with the bases empty. Well, Nolasco's been good for the Twins. The Twins pitchers, however, there have been some bright spots to be sure in an otherwise dismal April. The American League earned run average through the month of April was 3.75. The Twins ERA about a quarter run higher than that. So we've talked, and it was certainly valid in the first week and a half of the season. The biggest shortcoming for the Twins, the lineup didn't produce many runs, but really across the board, the Twins defensively didn't play well in April. They didn't pitch as well as the norm in the American League. They certainly didn't hit as well. So as they turn the page and hope for a better May, there's plenty of room for improvement, isn't there?
Let's hope so.
Yes. 0-2 to J.D. Martinez.
Twins have the shift on J.D. around the left side.
Just missed the outside corner.
They figure if he goes to the right side, it's usually off the wall. He hits a lot of balls in the seats to right field. Most of his home runs are opposite field, but when he hits it on the ground, it's usually to the pull side, the third base side.
Crack foul. Barehanded grab. A fan a level above us.
Well, he did drop it, but I think he had plenty of time to recover and throw it to first.
And over by the Twins dugout, still 1-2. Managers and pitching coaches like to talk about pitchers who seemed in control of the game. And to me, that means a lot of 1, 2, 3 innings. And as we mentioned, Nolasco had 4 of those in his last start, hoping for his second one already today.
Yeah, he's had a very easy first inning. This one a little slower because of the reviews. I mean, they take time.
Another 1-2 pitch to J.D. Martinez. Check swing, and he went, said Brian Gorman. And Nolasco ends up with another 1, 2, 3 third. Roy Smalley will come to the booth here to talk about the resurgence of Joe Mauer. Runs in the first inning. Joe Mauer started a 2-out rally with a single to center. Roy Smalley up here to talk about what we've all seen, but maybe we can't explain as well as hopefully you can, what we've seen from Joe Mauer and why it looks so recognizable from a few years ago.
Yeah, he looks like the old Joe, doesn't he? He and Bruno have been working really, really hard on 2 things. Bruno thinks that his head has been moving forward and his hands have been kind of cocking back behind his body, and that's a result of his being injured, his legs not being strong, his wrist being hurt. You start cheating to catch up when your mechanics are bad, and usually what happens is that your head starts moving and your hands start doing funny things. But you watch right here, watch how still his head is. Hands go straight back and then right at the ball. And that is the old Joe, whereas the last couple of years, head drifting a little bit, hands going to a funny spot. He's locked in right now.
1-1 to Mauer, leading off the Twins third. You know, and you can see it on that shot. What movement there is down, as would naturally happen when you take a stride, but there was no forward movement to his head at all on that swing.
Yeah, that's just perfect head position. It really is, and you see the ball. It's pretty obvious, right, Jack? When your head's still, you see the ball better.
Tap to the right side and through for a hit. Not hit well, but between Cabrera and Kinsler for a leadoff single. I mean, we're seeing evidence that this guy might contend for a batting championship again.
Well, when you look at him here, see, even on that breaking ball right there, look how still his head is, his hands straight back, straight at the ball. And even though he pounded it into the ground a little bit, the timing on that swing was really, really good. He wasn't way out in front. He hit over the top of it a little bit, but the big end was right at the ball at the right time.
Here's Sano, drew a walk, scored in the first inning.
Roy, I've always equated pitching and hitting in a lot of similarities, and that is the least amount of movement you can do to have success, you're better off. And you know, the bigger the person is, the more that movement becomes something that you really are fighting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And to take your pitching mechanics, Jack, for example, I mean, you were so simple, and so your arm got up to the top of your delivery at just the right time all the time. You used your legs well, and as you were starting forward, your arm wasn't dragging. It was up in that slot where it was supposed to be, and that's why you could throw so many of your pitches where you wanted to throw them, and you were so effective. Hitting's the same way. If you get your head moving, if there's a lot of body movement, the result is the big end of the bat's going to be behind your hands, right, and you're not going to catch up.
2-0 to Sano. Swing and a miss. He tried to hit a 2-run home run there. For Pelfrey, he's faced 12 men. 6 of them have reached. 5 with hits, 1 with a walk. Sano drawing the first inning walk.
If you were hitting today, Roy, you face Mike Pelfrey. Tell me your game plan.
My game plan is to hit like I'm hitting 3-1 every pitch. I'm looking for a fastball right in the middle of the zone, and I'm just going to get real aggressive on that pitch, and that pitch only. If it's not that, I'm taking it until I get 2 strikes, and he proves to me that he can either A, get some kind of other pitch than a fastball over, right, or until he's pounding the strike zone somewhere other than middle of the zone with his fastball. But if he pitches the way that we have seen him in the past, Twins hitters are going to get a lot of fastballs right there to hit, right in the middle.
And in this case, the count is legitimately 3-1.
Well, you're going to see a lot of that with him too, if you'll let him. You know, if you pigeonhole down into the middle of the strike zone, that's all you swing at, you're going to end up 3-1 a lot anyway.
Popped up and out of play. 3-2.
I've always felt that Mike Pelfrey's been too fine. He's a guy that the catcher should maybe sit right down the middle because he has enough movement. But he always seems to want to hit the black, whether it's inside or outside, and it tends to run off the plate instead of stay on the plate.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jack. I don't understand why he has not been better these last 3 years with that 93, 94 with movement.
And
that
usually
should
down.
be good
he doesn't
enough.
throw a lot of pitches up.
Yep, I agree. That should be a good enough fastball to win in this league, and I think your assessment's the right one. Go right for the middle and let movement take care of itself.
Mauer goes. Pitch drilled to the left field corner, and a fair ball. And it bounces out of play. Mauer will be left at third base. Boy, this is something I wish they would change. When the runner is gone like that, you should leave it up to the umpires. And it's not because the Twins would have scored a run there, but clearly on any kind of double, with Mauer almost all the way to second base at the point of contact, he would have scored. And instead, he'll be sent back to third.
What it does, it takes away the RBI for the hitter that probably deserves an RBI, Miguel Sano in this case.
Yeah, that should be an umpire's judgment about whether or not the runner would have scored had the interference not happened. I agree with that.
Hit the limestone, so it was a ground rule double at that point. A single, now a double, and here's Park, who hit an opposite field single. His first hit with a man in scoring position to put the Twins on the board 1-0.
You know, guys, I have to say it was such a high baseball IQ professional at bat by Park in the first inning. Jack, he is way out in front of a breaking ball or something with Pelfrey. Count gets to 3-2 with both guys moving. He knows the runners are stealing, and at that point in time becomes kind of a hit and run. He didn't try to pull it, went the other way, and I just thought that was a real great at bat. If he swings and misses there, you get to strike him out, throw him out, take him out of the inning. And so he didn't try to hit the ball out of the ballpark. He understood that his job right there was to put the ball in play if it was a strike.
It looked like he was trying to go to the right side on that swing. The ball was down and away, but appeared to me he was trying to shoot the ball that way again.
1-1. Twins with a chance to do some damage here in the third. Nobody out. Inside, 2-1.
No activity in the Tiger bullpen yet. Mike Pelfrey, can see the pitch count there. 58 pitches, nobody out in the third inning. And that equates to my St. Paul, Minnesota high school math at 31 pitches per inning so far. Even though we are in the third, some of those pitches did occur this inning.
2-1 to Park. And now 2-2. Both swings, his back foot came up out of the ground. Let's go back to the double by Sano with Mauer off on the pitch. The ball is on the ground, and Mauer was already a third of the way to third base.
Well, you know, here's the reality. The third baseman will be scoring the guy. He'd be waving. Gene Glenn would be waving him in there because the left fielder has to play the ball off the wall no matter how it is ruled. And by the time he actually gets the ball in his hands to turn to throw to home, Joe is probably a third of the way to home.
2-2 to Park. Tapped up the line. I can promise you, however, umpires want no part of making that decision.
And I think it's very here's how sarcastic I can be. I think it's very I think it's very dangerous to give the umpires any more authority than they already have.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Well, I got your blood flowing.
Jack Morris and sarcasm in the same sentence? I don't know.
Never happens.
2-2 to Park. Twins need to or have a chance here to do more damage against Mike Pelfrey. Breaking ball got him a foul tip. And Park strikes out, and that'll bring up Arcia. Second strikeout for Mike Pelfrey.
Yeah, it was a big out for Mike Pelfrey right there, and a tough one for Park. That's that little split finger that Mike throws once in a while. It's like a changeup. It does break straight down, but it's more the off speed that makes it effective.
And it's also the pounding inside with that moving fastball that you were talking about, Jack. When he is effective, especially against right-handers, he's throwing that fastball. It runs in hard on their fists. And I don't care who you are as a hitter, that impresses you. Say, God, I got to get the big end of the bat out there, and you start hurrying, and it makes you vulnerable to that off-speed stuff.
Now Arcia drove in a run in the first inning, and he flips one foul. Strike one. Arcia with a single to center, driving in Sano.
Now here's a situation where you have a left-hand hitter, three infielders on the right side. You've got one out and the ability to get at least one of them in with something hit to the outfield or to the left side of the infield. And Pelfrey with the ball moving away, his fastball moving away from the left-hander. I don't know why you don't just look for a ball out over the plate and just go that direction.
Strike two.
And to add to your point, Mike Pelfrey being a right-hand pitcher is going to fall off to the first base side, so that even opens up more of the hole there between where Iglesias is playing right now and where Nick Castellanos is at third.
Relatively speaking, there is no percentage in your favor trying to pull the ball in this situation. It's just there's so much real estate available to you.
And an awfully big runner standing at third base. 0-2. And Arcia, susceptible to swinging at high fastballs, lays off that one that was helmet high.
That's the problem. It was helmet high. I've always said running the ball up is a great idea, and I wish we would have had that in our generation. I really mean that it would have been such an effective pitch, but there is a point, and it's right at about the letters that hitters see the ball. I mean, that's the easiest thing to see, right? Is the ball up? It should be, and you know, they tend to not offer at it when it gets to a certain point. They just say that's too high. It's easy to see it.
Right.
1-2. Wow. Arcia strikes out, and the runners are still at second and third now with 2 away.
So right there's the difference what Jack was talking about. At this point right here, you'll swing at it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a
letter
swing.
high.
But above that, nobody will swing at it above that.
Right.
And Arcia could swing at that 10 times and not make contact. Here is Escobar, and the Twins need a pick-me-up here. It's a 1-run lead, but a great chance to maybe put Pelfrey on the ropes, and instead he's one good pitch perhaps away from surviving this 3rd inning. Bauer singled, so no double. Park struck out on a breaking ball. Arcia on a high fastball. Strike on the outside corner.
Even Escobar here, they have him shaded up towards the middle now. Iglesias is playing on the shortstop side of second base, but right behind Miguel Sano. So there's still a lot of room for Escobar to shoot the ball to the left side.
Grounder right to Cabrera. He picks it up. Finds Pelfrey, who survives a leadoff single, follow-up double. The Twins don't score in the 3rd. And as usual, our thanks to Roy Smalley for stopping by the booth. Visit NorthlandFord.com and your local Northland Ford dealer today. And by Grand Casino. The best stories start here. Twins misfired in the bottom of the 3rd, put together a threat, couldn't get anything out of it. Now to the 4th and a 2-1 ball game. Cabrera, Martinez, and Upton. Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, Justin Upton facing Ricky Nolasco. Cabrera in a 1-hopper back to the mound to end the 1st inning. And he takes low, ball 1. Up and in, 2-0.
It's nice to have Miguel Cabrera coming up to the plate with nobody on base to lead off an inning. This guy, we've talked about it so many times about what a great hitter he is, but he also is one of the best in the business with runners in scoring position.
They still have a formidable, I was going to say 1-2 punch, but now with JD Martinez, at least a 1-2-3 punch, maybe a 1-2-3-4 punch if Upton can get back to what he was earlier in his career. 2-1. High pop up short center field. And Dozier has to run out to make the, and he didn't make the catch.
Oh no.
And now to second base, and Cabrera is out at second.
Where's he going? He was 5 steps past Joe Mauer when Brian picked up the ball.
Nice recovery by Dozier. Santana broke back on the ball and wasn't even a factor in the play. So score at 4-6. See Santana breaking back, and then Dozier had to make a late adjustment. It bounced out of his. I beg your pardon. The score at 4-5. It was Sano, the third baseman, who put the tag on him. Well, Cabrera's off the bases. That's all that really matters. Here's Victor Martinez. The way Martinez has been batting. Swinging a foul, 1 strike. Another double after a lengthy at bat for Victor Martinez, doubling high off the wall in right center field. Credit Cabrera with a single. Out trying to stretch it into a double. 1-1. Martinez hitting .339 coming into the game from this side of the plate. And it was from this side of the plate that he struggled so terribly. It was almost hard to watch, having seen how good he's been, to see how with his left leg not 100%, not as strong as it is now, how he just couldn't. I think the term Roy Smalley would use is fire from his back leg. He couldn't swing the bat.
No push, no drive.
1-2. And a foul back to the screen. So we've seen it countless times, it seems, in this series. Martinez with 2 strikes staying alive, and then as he did in his first at bat leading off the second inning, driving one.
Well, like Joe Mauer, Martinez very tough guy to strike out, and he's very comfortable hitting with 2 strikes.
On the ground, Dozier with a nice scoop, and 2 away.
I'm going to take a look at the pitch selection for Ricky Nolasco. He's had very good success this year. You can see 46% of his pitches have been fastballs. The sliders there are in pink, and I believe that's orange. 14.6% curveballs, a few split fingers. So he's mixing up all his pitches, mostly fastballs, getting ahead, pounding the strike zone, and then using the breaking pitches to get people out.
2 down, and now Justin Upton. And a strike.
Another chance for Ricky to have a 1-2-3 inning. It'll be 3 out of 4 if he can get Upton out.
Swing and a miss.
And if he throws that pitch again, he won't have any problem.
Toyota Key stat, Justin Upton with the big home run in yesterday's game. Starting to turn the corner a little bit. 0-2 to Upton. Ball driven foul. Upton's strikeout totals frighteningly high. He got a base hit to the opposite field in his first at bat. So 96 at bats and 38 strikeouts. We've seen high strikeout totals in the Twins lineup, but Upton has been an even higher strikeout rate. Swinging a foul. So as we said yesterday, you take all the numbers and multiply times 6 at the end of the first month of the year, and you're talking in the neighborhood of 240 strikeouts.
And they'll actually take that if you can hit 40 balls into the seats.
0-2. But look at the bottom half of the third inning, Jack, and you see what strikeouts do. If Park had simply put the ball in play on the ground, he would have driven in a run. Sano would have advanced to third with the right ground ball, and then if Arcia had put the ball in, there's 2 runs right there, and the Twins didn't score because of the 2 strikeouts.
They both had pitches to hit, but when Mike Pelfrey was ahead.
Oh, well, Kevin Rand, the trainer, coming out. There's an issue with Upton. Some gesture towards his lower back. And it'll give us time to remind you that Trevor Plouffe is due back. Trevor had an oblique injury and has completed a 2-day rehab assignment. Will join the team tomorrow in Houston and hopefully be available Tuesday night. 1-2. And now 2-2.
I think Ricky understands that Upton is susceptible to the breaking ball down and away and would prefer to throw that pitch and get himself a strikeout. But he also has to keep him honest and mix things up once in a while. You can go up in the zone with his loopy swing.
There's an awkward swing for strike 3. And again, Nolasco faces just 3 men in the inning. Presented by Super America. Get your Knothole Kids Day vouchers at any local Super America. With Audra Martin, Jack Morris, Dick Bramer on a beautiful early May, very early May Sunday afternoon. Twins in front 2-1. And Mike Pelfrey has survived. He's left some men in scoring position. The Twins frankly should have more than a 2-1 lead. We'll see what they can do about that in the bottom of the 4th, starting with Kurt Suzuki. Breaking ball and strike 1. Suzuki hit a ground ball to Kinsler, his first time up.
Mike Pelfrey has not had an easy inning yet, and the Twins have run the pitch count up to 68 pitches already as we start the bottom of the 4th inning.
Out in front of the breaking ball, 0-2.
It just seems like Mike has made the pitches he has to make when trouble is lurking.
Suzuki, the primary catcher for the Twins this year, again backed up by John Ryan Murphy. Long look in, and now the 0-2 from Pelfrey. Pulled on the ground. Nice stop by Castellanos across the bag. And a one-hop throw picked by Cabrera. Castellanos with a fine play behind the third base bag, one away.
That's the way you have to do it. And Castellanos, because he didn't have his feet underneath him perfectly to get rid of this ball, he's going to one-hop it over to Miguel Cabrera, and Cabrera really understands that that's what's going to happen here. He throws in a perfect position in the fact that he's able to see the ball easily. It wasn't a short hop. It was way out in front of him. And Miguel showing his appreciation for it by congratulating Castellanos. Good play.
One down now, Eddie Rosario. Pelfrey pauses for a moment to tie a shoe. Rosario with a fly to center his first time up.
I always thought it was the toughest matchup ever. Former teammate throwing to your, or a pitcher throwing to your former teammates, but the catcher in particular, the guy that's caught a lot of your ball games, he knows you better than your sister does. And Kurt Suzuki obviously knows Mike Pelfrey very well.
Well, Suzuki was fooled by that second pitch, a breaking ball, but then he hit the fastball hard down the third base line. Rosario swings and misses, 0-2.
Like getting a few of the Twins hitters now to chase out of the zone. That'll work in his favor. Twins need to be patient. Roy was talking about it. Just keyhole in that first couple swings. Make him throw the ball where you want it to be.
Oh, 2. And flipped foul. Twins had 7 batters reach in the first 13 plate appearances, but now Pelfrey set down 4 men in a row. A couple of big strikeouts. Key in getting him off the field without a run allowed in the third inning. 2 strikes to Rosario. And now Pelfrey wants to talk to Saltalamacchia.
I'm not sure this is really worthy of a conversation right here. You got 2 strikes on a guy. Just shake until you get the pitch you need.
Twins fans, if you can't watch the games on TV, you can stream games live on your mobile device. Go to your app store, download the free Fox Sports Go app, log in and stream the Twins wherever you go. Now another 0-2 to Rosario. Tapped up the line, foul. Twins lead for Houston after the game. They have 3 against the struggling Houston Astros. The Astros coming into play today with the same record as the Twins, and a day off in Chicago Thursday before they take on the red-hot White Sox. White Sox behind Chris Sale leading Baltimore, looking for their 18th win of the year. 0-2 to Rosario. And then in the dirt. Yeah, the Astros really having a tough time in their pitching department. My goodness, that was the reason they surprised a lot of people and got into postseason last year. They've got a team ERA of nearly 5, by far the worst in the league.
We're going to see
Keuchel tomorrow night.
Yeah, Cy Young Award Dallas Keuchel pitch tomorrow night against Veterans.
Just to right center field. That's hooking away from Ghost, but he's still able to get there for out number 2. Back to the top of the order now, and Danny Santana. Now the Astros ranking below the Twins in the team categories: batting average, runs scored, ERA, fielding. Well, not fielding, but the Astros are down there near the bottom as well. So 3 in Houston, a day off, then 3 in Chicago. A quick homestand with the Orioles, and then back on the road again to go to Cleveland and Detroit. Santana takes a slow off-speed pitch way outside, ball 1. Santana with a single and a stolen base his last time up.
You look at that schedule, and even though Houston has struggled just as much as the Twins have, Chicago first place in the Central Division, and then Baltimore comes in and they're in first place in the East.
And Santana uncoils, another miss, and it's 1-2. Pelfrey's not had a 1-2-3 inning. Twice already the Twins have gotten a hit after the second out. Now Santana rolls one to Castellanos, an easier play here, and Pelfrey has a 1-2-3-4. He's retired 6-man in a row.
In the 5th inning, we're now inside the Minnesota Lottery winner's circle. I'm here with the birthday girl, Barbara, and her husband, Jack. This game is doubly special because Barbara is originally from Michigan, but lives here in Minnesota now. And again, she's celebrating her birthday. Now, Barbara, you're going to win $100 worth of scratch-off tickets from the Minnesota Lottery, but we got to talk about important stuff because I hear you're actually a good luck charm for the Twins when they're playing the Tigers.
When I first moved here to Minnesota, we would come to the games when the Tigers played, and every time the Twins would win, and when they went to Comerica Park and we went there, the Twins would win. So I think they're going to win today.
That's a very good sign. I think everybody is very excited to hear that you're here today.
Yes, but I still like my Detroit Tigers, but that's okay. I'm borderline now.
All right, well, happy birthday, Barbara. Thank you guys so much. We'll send you these tickets, guys, back upstairs to you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Audra. And I'm working next to a guy who must be torn too, right?
Yeah, I'm borderline. Day to day and borderline.
1-1 to Castellanos, leading off the 5th against Pelfrey, and a ball line spared by the shortstop Escobar. What a catch!
Little man can't get much higher than that. Timed his leap perfectly and comes down with the baseball.
A line drive and a sinking line drive, and at the peak of his jump, Escobar is able to pull it down, and that's today's cricket, something to smile about. And Escobar did smile after that, still smiling about that.
His smile is infectious.
Here is Saltalamacchia. Now, would you consider the 4th inning for Nolasco a 1-2-3 inning, even though Cabrera got a single, was thrown out trying to get to second base?
Well, in technicality, it's not, because there was a base hit. But in reality, I guess if you face the minimum number of batters,
right, and
you're pretty happy with it.
And it was a pop up to center that
Dozier
probably should have been caught. Right. 1-1 to Saltalamacchia, and a ball hooked foul. 1-2. Well, Nolasco's done a better job than anybody else the Twins have had this year in terms of having 1-2-3 innings. 17 of them counting the 4th inning.
He's really attacked the strike zone this year and done a very good job of getting ahead of hitters. It's that simple. Ricky's feeling good about his pitches right now. He's in health. Is strong coming into spring training in very good shape, and he's executing. And I think confidence comes more and more. He's, you know, every time he goes out there, he feels like, look, I can win here. I've done it in the past. I can again.
It doesn't sound like much. He's pitched in 32 different innings, but in 17 of them, he's had 1, 2, 3 innings. And that to me goes a long way towards a pitcher being in control of things. Here's a ball hit to center. Santana hardly has to move. He's got a chance for another 1, 2, 3 inning here in the 5th. Twins baseball on Fox Sports North is presented by T-Mobile. Get Major League coverage. T-Mobile has doubled its 4G LTE in the last year. And there haven't been any of the big, crooked numbers. And Nolasco's been everything the Twins were hoping to get a little over 2 years ago when they signed him. Now injuries contributed to the difficulty. And in a season that has not gone well for the Twins, this is one thing that's gone very right. 1-0. And now 2-0.
When you talk pitching and pitching coaches talk pitching, the subject that comes up more than any other subject is fastball command. And if you look at Ricky Nolasco last year, he gave up a lot of home runs on hanging breaking balls. It's because of the lack of fastball command. He just couldn't get ahead of hitters with fastballs, didn't have the confidence in the fastball. So he would, there was days where I thought his arm was going to fall off with all the breaking balls that he threw. But that was his go-to pitch. He felt confident in throwing breaking balls, and he's going to make mistakes when you throw nothing but breaking balls. So this year, he's got that fastball command again, and therefore his total arsenal is much greater because of it.
Anthony's 2-2.
He still has the good breaking ball, but I think he's doing a better job of not making mistakes with the breaking ball.
Fly to left, deep to the corner. Chased by Rosario in the corner. That ball is off the wall. And then a long carom. And Goes can run well. He'll try for third, and the throw not in time. Well, Rosario chased it to the corner, but it hit the wall, and then Karam passed him. And the tying run now 90 feet away with the number 9 batter, Iglesias, coming up.
Goes has a tough decision to make as he's coming into second base. He can see the play developing out in left field with Eddie Rosario, but he also knows the reputation of his throwing arm. So as Eddie Rosario is running to the ball, he's got to make a decision. Can I beat him to the bag by beating him to the baseball? And that time Rosario's throw was not exactly on line to Sano.
2 down. And Nolasco will try to bear down and get Iglesias. He missed with his first pitch, ball 1. Iglesias hit a soft line drive toward Dozier, who backpedaled to field the first hop. Replays showed that he was safe. The original call was out. The call stood with after the Tiger challenge, and there is ball 2.
We mentioned that Iglesias is a pretty good contact hitter. Tough guy to strike out. And Kinsler on deck also having a good year. A little bit more susceptible to strikeouts.
2-0. And now a strike. Nolasco will take a 350-foot fly ball here.
Take a line drive at him ball.
Yep.
Anywhere and out.
Trying to preserve a 2-1 lead. 2-1. And a breaking ball hits the corner. Well, Iglesias has taken 4 pitches, and now he'll be swinging away. Inning started with Escobar's catch of a hard line drive for the first out. Breaking ball rolled off the glove of Nolasco, and the game is tied. The ball would have gone to Dozier, who very likely would have thrown him out, but instincts take over, and Nolasco reached out, deflected the ball. It's 2 apiece.
Yeah, those things are something you just can't think quick enough. You're talking about a fraction of a second. The pitchers, if they know that the ball is going to go towards a guy, they certainly wouldn't even get in his way, but you react because you think you can make the play. That's what Ricky did. The ball went off his glove, and Iglesias quick enough to get down and beat the throw to first. No throw at all because of that. Gets an RBI and the game's tied.
Well, a 2-out triple comes in to score the tying run. Here's Kinsler. And Iglesias scampers back to the bag. A couple of steals for Iglesias. The Tigers have just 6 stolen bases. Way out in front, strike 1. Kinsler has a couple of stolen bases. Romine and Goes each have 1. I checked that. Romine and Castellanos each have 1.
Ricky doing a good job of trying to keep Iglesias at first base. He had a long pause in the first pitch to Kinsler and now throws over. Just doesn't want to put another runner in scoring position.
Upton got a steal earlier in this game back in the 2nd inning. So 7 stolen bases. One and one. Glasgow was in control of things until the 2-out triple. Tigers have left just 1 man on base. Slow breaking ball missing, and it's 2-1. Kinsler almost lunged after it, checked, and the pitch up and away. Fox Tracks presented by Jeep. And it just missed the outside corner. Drilled to center. Santana going back, and now over, makes the catch at the wall.
Wow.
Kinsler drove it 400 feet from home plate for the final out of the inning. The Tigers tie it up. You're going to want to watch the bottom of the 5th. They got a good vibe for how the Twins are going to fare in the bottom of the 5th, trying to retake the lead. Someone about that age made that really nice catch in front of us yesterday. As we go to the bottom of the 5th inning, Mike Pelfrey will face Dozier, Mauer, and Sano. Showing bunt, taking ball 1. Pelfrey's retired 6 men in a row, but I just got a good feeling about what's going to happen for Twins fans in the bottom of the 5th.
Mike at 11 of 20 now, first pitch strikes.
2-0. Twins could have scored more in the 1st inning when they did score twice. Should have scored in the 3rd after a single and double started the inning. Remember, the double bounced off the limestone in the left field corner, and Mauer, who was off with the pitch, was held at 3rd and never did cross the plate. 3-0 to Dozier with Mauer on deck.
Again, this has been the Achilles heel for Mike Pelfrey. The team finally scores him a run, ties the game, and your job is to get that leadoff man, attack him, and he falls behind. 3 balls and no strikes for Brian Dozier.
And a strike on the outside corner. Dozier has walked 10 times, struck out 19 times. Came into the game with a 191 batting average and a 276 on base percentage. And Dozier takes a 5-pitch walk to start the 5th. And that'll bring up Joe Mauer, who has a single to center and a single to right, and a run scored. Our Carsoup.com trivia question: who holds the Twins record for consecutive games reaching base to start a season? Reached in every game this year. Twins trying to take advantage now of the leadoff walk. Strike at the knees to Mauer.
Paul usually tends not to start the runner with Joe at the plate. He likes to let him track the ball. Dozier does run well. Let's see if anything might be cooking here.
Low 1-1. Sometimes it seems that the runner is of more value at first base threatening to steal than he is if he's at second base in terms of distracting a pitcher.
You know, you have a good point. I think certain pitchers have a tough time with the runner at first and just upsetting his timing and rhythm. Mike Pelfrey has never been very quick to home. He does need to take that short little slide step in order to get the ball, you know, and partly to do because of his physical size. The bigger you are, the harder it is to get rid of the ball quicker.
His best pitches seem to be his off-speed pitches. That's how he got the strikeouts he needed in the 3rd inning. 1-1. And if Dozier's at first, maybe it increases the chances of Mauer, Sano and company getting fastballs rather than the breaking balls. And if you're not completely focused on the batter, maybe you have a better chance of leaving one up where it can be driven for an extra base hit. 1-1 to Mauer. And called on the outside corner.
I think it's safe to say over Mike's career, he's had very little confidence in throwing his secondary pitches when he's behind in the count. In hitters' counts, he's throwing what hitters need, and that's fastballs. And he needs to throw more off-speed pitches and breaking balls in those counts, but he doesn't have the command of them. Where today, in those situations, he's done a pretty good job of throwing his secondary pitches.
Speed pitch in the dirt, 2-2. We know Joe doesn't pull the ball on a regular basis, but we got a pretty good breeze blowing out to right field. Usually, if Joe pulls the ball, it's on a breaking ball or an off-speed pitch of some sort. Sano on deck. See the flags to the right of your screen there blowing out through the plaza.
It does help Joe also that Miguel Cabrera is holding Dozier on first, so that, you know, he can pull a ball into that hole.
Driven to left field. Upton going back at the wall. Gone! A home run! No, it's in play. It is in play. Dozier will score. It's a double, and it looked like it landed in the flowers and came out. I've never seen a ball hit the wall and do what that ball did.
Well, the fact that Justin Upton did not have any sense of urgency going to that ball, it's almost like he knew it was out. And of course, Paul Molitor is going to take his time there to review it.
And I asked the umpires to have an umpire's review. This is not a challenge. It's just an appeal for the umpires to take a look at it and rule whether it left the field of play. And there's the ball. It hit the corner of the fence. It's right there. You can see. Thank you, Jack, for circling that. So the ball apparently did not go out. And in this game of inches, you're talking about a quarter of an inch.
Yeah, you really are, because if it goes a 1/4 of an inch further, it's going to bounce straight up, and then that'll be ruled a home run.
Mauer has his third hit. It's an RBI double, and again, it was properly called by Quinn Walcott, the third base ump, who I believe had that call. And my goodness, Mauer missing his second home run by a quarter of an inch. And here is Sano. Twins get the lead back on the RBI double, Mauer's third hit of the game. Sano doubled his last time up. Sano doubled off the warning track and up against the limestone in the left field corner for a ground rule double. Mauer was left at third. Pelfrey just got a bit of a reprieve. Tigers caught a break, got the game tied, and then Pelfrey with the leadoff walk, and he's already had to pay for the leadoff walk with Dozier scoring.
Yeah, they come back to haunt Mike Pelfrey now with 91 pitches, and Brad Ausmus is going to get some activity going in the Tiger bullpen. Both a righty and lefty warming right now.
A pretty good base running play by Dozier, because he, as soon as the ball came back onto the field of play, he was already rounding third base. So he got a really good read on a ball that nearly left the yard. 1-1 to Sano. Off the plate, 2-1. Twins fans, of course, have seen it from Pelfrey. Nibble, nibble, nibble. Ryan and Wilson warming up. Ryan the left-hander, Wilson the right-hander. 2-1 to Sano. On the ground, off the glove of Iglesias into short center. Mauer to third. He'll be held there. Well, a hot ground ball. We'll see how they rule it. But the first 3 men have reached here in the 5th inning.
I've seen enough of Jose Iglesias to know that he probably feels in his heart that he should have had that ball. Now, it was hit very hard, and they're going to give him a base hit on it, but comes up a little bit on him. I think he thinks he probably should have had that ball.
It's certainly not a knockout punch, but what a great opportunity here for Park again. He's come up with, counting this plate appearance, 6 men on base. Drove in 1 with a single in the first, struck out with runners at second and third, and nobody out at the time in the third. And now another RBI chance here in the 5th. Nice stop by Saltalamacchia. He caught the ball, keeping Sano at first base. Tigers like to get a double play grounder here, and if they get it, might be because of that scoop.
Catchers have a very tough job, and to be able to pick balls like that, your body's shifting. You got to focus on the baseball, keep your head still, and hope not to get hurt.
If he just knocks that ball down and it kicks away from him at all, Sano's at second base. 1-0. Side 2-0. He's thrown 16 pitches this inning, I believe. Still looking for his first out. Three and 0. Arcia on deck.
Well, if he gets on base, there's a good chance that'll be the end of the day for Mike Pelfrey. You see the pitches by inning right there.
Green Line Park here leads your team in home runs.
Absolutely. You get something you like, take a whack at it.
A 4-pitch walk, and they're loaded up for Arcia. And that'll be the end of the day for Mike Pelfrey. Fourth time this year that the Twins have knocked out a starter in the 5th inning. And the Twins with a glorious chance here to break the game open. They'll have to get a big hit against the Tiger bullpen. Pelfrey facing 22 men and retiring half of them. In the 5th with Mike Pelfrey out of the game. May 9th is Scrubs Night at Target Field. Limited number of Scrubs Night theme night ticket packages are available that include a game ticket and Twins Scrub Bottoms. Go to twinsbaseball.com/scrubs to learn more about the Scrubs Night theme night offer. Now Oswaldo Arcia comes in with a chance to bust it open.
Yeah, new
against
pitchers.
Kyle Ryan.
Kyle Ryan, the left-hander, in his 9th game, and lefty-lefty matchup here against Oswaldo Arcia.
Swing and a miss. Talked about it virtually every time Arcia has come up in key spots like this. If he can tone himself down, he can be a productive hitter against lefties. Just 1 for 3 against lefties. 1 strikeout. 0-1.
Paul Molitor the other day made a comment about Arcia, one of his home runs or game-winning hits that he had a while back. He said Oswaldo's starting to understand that a shorter swing, a more compact swing, he still has plenty of power and strength to drive the ball, and still goes a long way. You know, I guess he needs to understand that a 600-foot home run is no different than a 420.
Off the end of the bat, foul, 1-2. Arcia with a strikeout with runners at second and third and one down in the third. He did have an RBI single in the first.
Well, it's a big at bat. I mean, can't overemphasize. The Twins do have the lead by 1 run, but opportunities could be diminishing. And bases loaded, nobody out. You need to put the ball in play here.
And Arcia flips a fastball near the outside corner, out of play. Tigers, of course, playing the infield back. They've got to force it every base. They'll take a ground ball and try to turn 2 and give up another run. They've averaged about 7 runs a game over their last 4 games. They'd be content to get out of this inning down 4-2. Base hit left field. Mauer scores. Sano held, and Arcia puts it in play with 2 strikes and gets his second RBI single.
That was really good hitting right there. Arcia saw a couple breaking balls from Kyle Ryan, and this time he just stayed on it. He did shorten up his swing. He did try to make contact. Let's see it pitch by pitch. He starts him out with a breaking ball that Arcia had a big swing on. Then he throws another one in the dirt, too far away to even take an off right. He fouls one off the end of the bat, and he throws a fastball there that he fouls off. Then he comes back with the breaking ball, probably the best breaking ball of that whole series, down and away, and yet Arcia shortens up. You can see the head, how he reaches out and just puts the ball in play. Good contact and gets an RBI.
Escobar taps it foul wide of third. Escobar hitting over 300 as a right-handed batter. 5 hits, 16 at bats. Just 1 run batted in, however, and he's got a chance to do a lot of damage here with the bases loaded and nobody out. Popped up in the seats, 0-2.
Take one more look at that last swing, the base hit by Arcia.
It's almost like he was paying attention when Victor Martinez did that the other night, beating a shift with a double.
It's very hard to hit that ball in that spot. I mean, that is a great pitcher's pitch there, but he kept his head and his shoulder in. His hips were a little bit gone. He did not stride towards the ball, but he used his upper body to make contact.
But you just hope, don't you, that will help things click for Arcia and the importance of putting the ball in play.
It's not just Arcia. You hope that everybody's paying attention.
Yes. Yes. 0-2 to Escobar in the dirt, and Saltalamacchia does a nice job keeping a runner from scoring. Look, sounded like it hit his shin guard and rolled up the baseline. 1-2.
Salty's done a good job behind the plate. He's shifting his weight to his left that time. Catchers are taught to get that glove down, put that chest forward so that if it does ricochet, it'll stay in front of you.
Escobar waves at a pitch way outside, and that'll bring up Suzuki with 1 down.
That's a big out for the Tigers right there.
And now Brad Ausmus will make another pitching change.
Way out of the zone there. That's where hitters are guess hitters right there. When you see a swing like that, you know that they had to be thinking something else because they did not track the ball very well.
Couple in for the Twins. Still some more work to get done in the 5th. in left field, but Dozier and Mauer have scored this inning. You can join Fox Sports North at the next viewing party Tuesday, beginning at 6:30 p.m. at Carboni's in Burnsville. You can watch the Twins take on the Astros. Enjoy food and drink specials. Register for Twins tickets and prizes and more. And you might even get a hello from Jack and me in Houston. Visit foxsportsnorth.com. Click on upcoming events on the Hot Topics bar.
Alex Wilson is the new Tiger pitcher. The right-hander is making his 7th appearance of the year. We talked about it yesterday. Alex Wilson is a guy that Brad Ausmus has a lot of trust in. He throws in a lot of games.
There's 3 hits allowed on the year, a lot of strikeouts, and that's what he'll try to do here. Strike out Suzuki. Pitches up, ball 1. Suzuki typically has been the toughest Twins batter to strike out. Suzuki this year 49 at bats and 8 strikeouts. Suzuki trying to find a landing spot in the outfield. Tap foul, 1-1. He has grounded out twice today, and of course that's what the Tigers are hoping for. Another ground ball hit at somebody. Maybe turn 2 and get out of this inning having allowed just 2 runs. Twins all over the place with 1 out. Breaking ball away, 1-2. Suzuki made that mistake with Pelfrey. He swung at a pitch that was well outside. And Suzuki's disciplined enough to very likely not make that same mistake twice in one game.
And he came back and hit it hard to third baseman Castellanos. These are the situations the Twins really need to capitalize. They haven't had that many chances to blow games open.
There's a drive to left field. Upton is there for the catch. Tagging and scoring is Sano, and the Twins have 3 on the board so far here in the 5th. Sacrifice fly by Suzuki, driving in his 6th run.
And another run that'll be charged to Mike Pelfrey. He's still responsible for Byung-Ho Park, who's still out at second base.
3 on the board, and now the number 9 batter, Rosario. A fly to center, and then he hit a line drive caught by Goes in center field. Just need to get a couple of guys going in this lineup. Rosario one of them, Dozier another. A lot of swings and misses by Rosario. One strike. Rosario with 20 strikeouts and 77 at bats. Slap foul, 0-2 quickly. Trying to deliver a big 2-out hit. Tigers got a couple of 2-out hits to get the game tied in the top half of this inning. Saltalamacchia with at least his 3rd block of this inning. One and 2.
Gives pitchers a lot of confidence when you have a catcher that's able to keep the ball in front of him on those pitches that you misfire on. Pitchers are always encouraging you to throw the ball down in the zone, to keep it down, and they almost say, look, I'll protect you there. That's what Saltalamacchia is doing right now.
A drive to right. Martinez is there. A couple of line drive outs end the inning. The Twins score 3, send 8 men to the plate, and they're back in front 5-2. double drove in a run. He later scored. And Arcia drove in a run with a single. So Ricky Nolasco back out there with a 3-run lead. Now Sanford Health injury report. Some moves for the Angels who are struggling. Craig Gentry on the disabled list. Matt Shoemaker sent down. Shane Robinson had an opt-out clause in his contract, so the Angels had to do something with him. And another former Twin, A.J. Ochter, called up.
Good to see 2 former Twins getting another opportunity at the major league level.
Big inning now for Nolasco, facing J.D. Martinez, and he shaves the outside corner on his first pitch. It'll be J.D. Martinez, Miguel Cabrera, and Victor Martinez.
The Tigers scored a run to tie up the game, and Mike Pelfrey proceeded to allow 4 base runners and was out of the game. Ricky Nolasco now with a lead, a 3-run lead, and he goes ahead and gets that leadoff man. It's a big out right there.
Weak short pop-up to Suzuki in front of the Twins dugout, 1 down. Only in Minnesota can you bike on the Lake Wobegon Trail in central Minnesota, a little bit north of Albany, one of the 66 rail-to-trail multi-use trails in the state. Not to mention the avid bike culture everywhere else. May is National Bike Month. Did you know that it's National Bike Month?
I know it now.
Find endless ideas for the perfect getaway at exploreminnesota.com. Share your favorites with hashtag #OnlyNMN. Yeah, the trail's a little bit north of Albany, but straight west of St. Anna.
A lot of great bicycle trails in this state.
There's Cabrera 1-0 with the bases empty. And now 2-0.
You tell me that every once in a while you bike in. And
I don't believe I've ever said that to you.
Well, somebody
That's Dan Gladden.
Was that Dan?
And he means a motorcycle.
I thought you rode your bicycle in here one time.
I thought about it.
Oh.
And then I looked at a map.
And you realized.
And I realized where I lived.
Yeah.
And where the ballpark was, and I decided not to do that.
But you could if you had to.
If I left, for instance, today, if I'd have left last night, I'd have gotten here by game time today. Swing and a miss, 2-2.
There's a lot of ball games left, and I think maybe that should be one of our pregame features, to have Ralphie, the camera guy, follow you, on his car, of course, just like it would be the Tour de France. Charlie could do it, yeah.
2-2. I'll think about it, and I'll get back to you.
Okay.
2 down. Twins Flex Plan gives you the flexibility to choose your games and your number of seats. Choose in advance or even the day of the game. Don't plan, Flex Plan. Go to twinsbaseball.com/flex or call 800-33-TWINS to learn more. Now, the simplest thing for me to do would be to say, well, I'll do it if you'll do it.
Well, I don't have as far to go as you
I
do.
know that, and that's why I didn't mention that, because you might do it.
I might.
Victor Martinez with a leadoff double and a run scored in the second inning.
I'll get back to you.
At the knees.
Meanwhile, Ricky Nolasco picks up his 4th strikeout there against Cabrera, and 2 quick outs here. Another opportunity for a 1-2-3 inning. That's what you want when your team scores. Get the guys right back. Do not give the other team any momentum whatsoever.
1 strike, and now a ball. Well, they've just moved Miguel Sano even further toward right center field. He's the 3rd baseman today, but he's back on the outfield grass playing in front of Danny Santana. 1-1 to Victor Martinez.
It's kind of funny. You don't see that every day, but every single infielder other than Joe Mauer is on the grass. So they're really 6 outfielders right now.
Can afford to do that because Victor Martinez might be the slowest runner in the American League. Two and 2, and yet he's got 3 doubles in this series and a home run. And now with 2 strikes, Sano will move back to his conventional spot on the left side of the infield.
Everybody's touching the dirt now. 2 strikes.
I That's a fair ball into the corner. Martinez might have another double. He'll hold up with a single. Arcia got it quickly and got it back to the infield. Twins will be glad when Victor Martinez takes the rest of his teammates out of town. Man, he's been hitting the ball well.
Two doubles in yesterday's game. 3 hits, 4 hits in the first game with a home run, and a pair of hits here, a double and a single in this game. Victor Martinez is a professional hitter, hitting a pitcher's pitch right there. A good tailing, sinking fastball, and was able to pull it over Joe's head right into the corner.
Upton with an opposite field single in the second and a strikeout in the fourth. Chopped to the right side and a base hit. So Upton goes to the opposite field twice to get base hits. And the tying run will come to the plate in Castellanos. And in each case, I think in the second inning as well, he jumped on the first pitch and hit it to the opposite field.
Twins have to be careful here. Castellanos has the power to tie this game up, so Ricky's going to have to make a good sequence of pitches. His pitch count at 97, so very good possibility that if he can get one more out, his day will be finished. You see Trevor May now, right-hander, warming up down in the Twins bullpen.
Castellanos has put the barrel of the bat on it twice. A sacrifice fly to Santana in center in the second, and then a wicked line drive with some topspin on it, and Escobar was able to climb the ladder and pull it down for the first out of the fifth. Castellanos lays off the breaking ball. Ball one. The last 4 Tiger hits, 2 of them in the fifth and now 2 here in the sixth, have come after the second out. Tapper foul. Have you ever in your life seen a third base coach play where Dave Clark is playing right now, or position? Now that there. Now as we zoom out, he's 15 feet in front of the dugout and equidistant between home plate and third base.
Apparently that little white box there down the third baseline, first baseline, that's just for decoration.
Tapper foul. Nice catch by, I think it's Brad Ausmus who made that. Well, he's a former catcher. He should have caught that. But really, that's the first time I've ever seen a third base coach playing there before.
Well, Victor is on second base, and I suppose he wants to get the best read he possibly can from the outfielder as to whether or not, if there's a play at home, to send Victor or not.
1-2 to Castellanos. Fastball off the plate. Just missed his spot. And what was that motion there? Nolasco moved his fingers across the bill of his cap, either toward his catcher or home plate umpire Brian Gorman. I've never seen that before.
I didn't catch it, but I'm assuming it was just.
What's that mean?
That's a signal between him and Suzuki about something. I don't know what it is.
Foul back. Still now 2-2. We'll have to ask Nolasco about that. He'll be in a mood to talk about it if he can strand these 2 runners here in the 6th inning. Now 3-2. Saltalamacchia on deck, and Suzuki smothered that pitch in the dirt to keep Victor Martinez at second, Justin Upton at first.
Ricky's starting to misfire a little bit. His pitch count at 103 today. I'm sure he's getting close to the end, if not at the end here, with Castellanos at the plate. Abad has been throwing now, the left-hander. Trevor May is already loose. So he might bring in Abad to face the left-hander Saltalamacchia if Castellanos gets on.
3-2. Runners go. High fly left field. Going back is Rosario. Tie game. Castellanos with a great at bat, and the Tigers get 3 hits with 2 out in the inning. And Castellanos with the home run to tie it at 5.
Just a tough break right there. You got to make a pitch, and you finally make a mistake. Paul Molitor has no choice but to come out and get Ricky. He'll get a no decision, but would love to have that last pitch back. Of course, there's all sorts of happiness in the Tiger bullpen. And Mike Pelfrey, probably the happiest of all. He just spit the hook for an L.
Martinez with the liner into the corner after the second out. Upton singling to right, and then the bomb by Castellanos, and we've got a new ball game. For Ricky Nolasco Ruin on the last pitch of his afternoon.
Little slider that this one just didn't break. The hanging slider, I can testify, is probably the worst pitch I ever threw in my career. They went further than any other pitch I ever threw. And Nick Castellanos is having a great start to his year. You see the extension, the power. He's able to lift this ball out over the fence. Eddie Rosario turns and looks, and it's a 3-run homer. And Ricky just not happy because he knew he was probably down to his last hitter. One more pitch, one more strike, and he leaves the game with a chance to win. Instead, he leaves with a no decision and 5 earned runs.
It would have been his last hitter because Abad was warmed up, and Saltalamacchia is a switch hitter, but he's just 1 for 13 as a right-handed batter. So Abad certainly would have been brought into the game. Saltalamacchia will hit with the bases empty in a tie game. The one was a 3-run home run.
This man has done a great job. Fernando Abad doesn't have an ERA yet. He gets people out, and Paul Molitor talked about it on his show this morning, how he just can't express enough how impressed he is about how Fernando's gone about his business, and he's able to mix in all his pitches, change speeds.
And Saltalamacchia gets his second hit as a right-handed batter. 4th straight 2-out hit for the Tigers, and that'll bring up Anthony Goes. Goes with a triple off the fence in the left field corner with Rosario in pursuit, and the carom came back well onto the field of play, and Goes was able to reach with a 2-out triple. Then the scratch single by Iglesias, and the Tigers tied it up at 2, and now they've tied it up at 5.
Yeah, that was with 2 outs in the 5th inning, top of the 5th. Now with 2 outs in the top of the 6th, they've tied it up again at 5.
1 strike to Goes.
There was a little bit of buzz here in this stadium prior to this half inning, and it's gotten very quiet.
Fouled back. 0-2. And then we've talked and credited Nolasco with all the 1, 2, 3 innings, yet in his last 2 innings here today, the first 2 outs came easily for him. It was that 3rd out that proved so elusive. And now Abad trying to get Goes and get the Twins off the field. Floated over for a strike. 70 miles per hour. That might have been generous. 4 straight 2-out hits, including a game-tying home run for Castellanos, and we're tied at 5. Fielding plays here today, and the big 3-run home run to tie the game at 5, and now the Twins got to get back to work in the bottom of the 6th. Danny Santana, Brian Dozier, Joe Mauer the batters. Santana 1 for 3 with a stolen base. Showing bunt, taking ball 1.
Yeah, both teams are going to find out if they can grind out these last couple innings. The Twins need to get guys on base. Both Joe Mauer and Miguel Sano are 3 for 3 in this game, so the table setters Dozier and Santana need to figure out a way to get on base.
Again showing bunt and taking away. Two 2-0 to Santana. A high fly to right. Back is Martinez with the catch. He played that very well given the overhang on a high fly ball, and that ball couldn't have missed hitting the overhang by too much. 1 away. You see visiting outfielders, right fielders sometimes play for a carom that never comes with the overhang. Here's Dozier. Leadoff walk in the 3-run 5th. Ball 1. Dozier 0 for 2. Hit the ball hard in the 2nd inning, lining out to Castellanos with Santana at 2nd and 2 down. Strike called. 1-1.
Trevor May still getting some warm-up tosses out in the pen, so Fernando Abad probably done for the day.
That's to right field. Martinez comes in to make the catch. 2 away. and that'll bring up Mauer. Our carsoup.com trivia question. We got to go back to 1982 and his rookie season. Ken Herbeck with the record.
I'll have to concur.
33 consecutive games starting his rookie season.
That's a good way to welcome yourself to the big leagues.
Yep. Second to Cal Ripken in the Rookie of the Year voting that year. Here's Mauer, 3 for 3. A line drive single to center, a ground ball single to right, and a drive to left field that hit the corner of the padding in left field for an RBI double. In terms of run scoring, it didn't matter. Mauer came around to score later in the inning. Now 1-1. Two and one.
One thing we're also seeing with Joe Mauer is they're not shifting all the way around to left field like they were last year. He's been spraying the ball a little bit to all fields, more like his really good years where he won batting titles.
3-1. He's walked 20 times. Jose Bautista, the only hitter in the American League with more walks, with 21. Trying to get a board here to get Sano up with a man on base in the 6th. He drives a 3-1 pitch to the left field corner, caught by Upton, and the Twins go down 1-2-3 in the bottom of the 6th. Of the game, and the Twins getting their first lead of this series in the first inning. RBI singles by Park and Arcia. The Twins had a 2-0 lead, and the Tigers worked their way back and tied the game on this little bleeder off the glove of Jose Iglesias. But then the Twins struck for 3 more in the 5th inning, knocking out Mike Pelfrey. First 5 men reached, and then Nick Castellanos, after the Twins had a 5-2 lead. Tigers put together a 2-out rally, a couple of base hits, and then Castellanos goes deep, and there you have it, 5-5 now as we go to the 7th inning.
New Twins pitcher will be Trevor May.
Iglesias checks his swing, an appeal, ball 1. Trevor May coming in to face Iglesias, Kinsler, and Martinez. May with just 10 hits allowed, an opponent batting average of under 200. The control's been a little bit better too. I've complimented you for years, the job you do with the Manager's Show on the Twins radio network on Sunday mornings. And this morning, as I was listening, Paul Molitor said he just seems to be a little bit more comfortable every time out pitching out of the pen again this year. And with that comfort, that breaking ball low, 2-1, a little bit better command of his pitches.
My observation is the first few games, Trevor tried to throw the ball through a brick wall. And by that I mean I think he was trying to overthrow, just blow people away. And he's going to be pitching a lot of ball games and maybe a little fatigued, but you know, the fact that he's got to conserve a little bit and use his brain. Think about command, and you know, he's got plenty of good stuff to get hitters out. He just has to locate the ball better. He was throwing a lot of pitches and getting behind counts early.
2-2. And a called third strike.
Nasty.
Mid-90s fastball down and away. It's a pretty effective pitch. Has been for 150 years.
Well, he just dots the eye right there. You see Suzuki doesn't even have to move the glove at all. And when it's in the mid-90s, there's not much a hitter can do with it.
You know, you brought up an interesting opinion the other day, and quite a compliment to Trevor May. You think Trevor May's got the best stuff on the pitching staff? I
do. I really do. I think he's got the strongest arm out there. He's got a great changeup. He doesn't have tremendous command with it yet, but his arm speed and what he does with his body on his changeup is identical to his fastball, and that's what you want. And he's got a very good breaking ball, you know, a 12-6 type of curveball. You know, it's just a matter of him, kind of like fine wine. He's got to just mature a little bit, and all of a sudden you're going to see something great out of this guy. I still think, you know, it's just my opinion. I know it's not the opinion of anybody in the organization, but I still think he could be a great starter. It's just that he's got value where he is right now.
Two strikes to Kinsler. A couple of lineouts and a pop-up. Checked his swing. 1-2. Well, May, of course, needed out of the bullpen. That's his role. He seems to, if he can reluctantly embrace a role, I think that's what Trevor's done, because he still would rather be a starting pitcher. Center field, and Santana back to haul it in short of the track, 2 away. And it's interesting now that May is in his role and Alex Meyer is now in the starting rotation. Of course, a couple winters ago the Twins traded 2 center fielders to get the 2 pitching prospects. Next Sunday, wake up to a pair of heavyweight wars as former champions and knockout masters finally meet in the octagon, where Alistair Overeem takes on Andrei Arlovsky. Plus, it's a battle of the giants between Bigfoot and Struve. It's all at a special time at 10 a.m. Central next Sunday morning, only on FS1, or watch it live on Fox Sports Go.
You did that quite well.
Well, and I have absolutely no confidence that I gave the proper pronunciations of the names there.
I'm a big fan. I know you did. You nailed them.
You're a big fan of the octagon, are you? 2 down. Here's Martinez. 2-0. Big swing. 2-1.
Trevor May with 2 quick outs has a chance to get out of this inning. 1, 2, 3, and have Miguel Cabrera lead off.
94 and a swing and a miss. 2-2. May hoping that Cabrera will lead off the 8th inning, whether he pitches in the 8th or not. Another opposite field hit for the Tigers, and Martinez will round first and hold up there. We've seen the power with Victor Martinez, Castellanos, J.D. Martinez, but the willingness to go the other way. And a 2-out single here will get Cabrera to the plate with a man aboard.
I'm not quite sure, and of course I haven't seen all the charts that the Twins have seen, but I'm not quite sure why they had Dozier playing around almost as a partial shift there on JD. He goes that way so often, and the pitch was away. He went with it.
And now Cabrera. Pop fly single in 3 trips, and he takes a 94-mile-per-hour fastball down and away at the knees. Low getting loose. He may pitch the bottom of the 7th. The last 7 Tiger hits have all come with 2 outs. The triple and the single that scored a run in the 5th. The 2 singles in front of the home run and a follow-up single in the 6th. And now J.D. Martinez with a 2-out single. Fouled away, 2 strikes.
I was watching Miguel Cabrera after that very first pitch, and it was a pitcher's pitch, 94 down and away, and it's almost like he was saying to himself, I should have hit that. That's the pitch that I can handle. And then Trevor May comes back with almost the same pitch, and he's able to foul it off. You know, this guy, you can't pattern anything with him. You've got to mix up everything. Up and down in the zone, hard, soft, breaking balls, fastballs. I mean, if you start thinking you can just throw one pitch in one zone to Miguel Cabrera, he's going to show you that that doesn't work very well.
Breaking ball got him on a check swing. May strands J.D. Martinez, and we will head to the bottom of the 7th, tied at 5. And on this beautiful spring Sunday afternoon, it is our distinct pleasure to bring you God Bless America.
Fans, please rise and welcome Stephanie Verone from Plymouth as she leads us in the singing of God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light up above. From the mountains to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Twins trying to finish this homestand with a win and a .500 record. You can follow Twins baseball live with the MLB.com at-bat app. Customize at-bat to feature the Twins and stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video, highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Twins need a lift. See if Miguel Sano can provide it here against Mark Lowe. Strike one. It'll be Sano, Park, and Arcia here in the Twins' 7th. Twins haven't trailed in this game. They had a lead of 3 an inning or so ago. Swing and a miss, 0-2. Sano's reached all 3 times. A walk and a run scored in the 1st. Double to the left field corner in the 3rd, and then he singled and scored in the 5th.
Every day it seems like that average is getting better and better. He's starting to get hits in almost every game. Some days multiple hits. He's having a great day today with 3 base hits. Two base hits and a double.
Been 9 days since his last home run. Driven to right field, slicing away from Martinez. He makes the catch on the warning track. 1 down.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Minnesota Twins and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent of the Minnesota Twins.
Here's Byung-Ho Park. Singled in a run in the 1st, struck out in the 3rd, walked in the 5th. Strike one. One strike. We've seen Park's power. We've seen evidence as to why in back-to-back years he hit more than 50 home runs in South Korea. Tend to forget that he was a high average hitter too.
Yeah.
Drew a lot of walks, and we have not seen that. I think that's the part that might come last for him as he gets to know pitchers. Chop to the right side. Kinsler has time to make the play. 2 down. And that'll bring up Arcia. Arcia with 2 really good at bats. Simply from the standpoint of he didn't try to do too much. An RBI single in the 1st, and even more impressively his opposite field single in the 5th, driving in a run each time.
I think you're the hitting coach, Tom Bernansky, and you see a guy that's willing to make a little bit of an adjustment. Now, it's got to be a tough thing for Oswaldo Arcia because his whole life he's been trying to launch balls well over the right field wall, but what he did his last at bat was pretty impressive.
Towering fly ball to center field. Caught in center and a quick 1-2-3, bottom of the 7th.
Mall of America Studio Sports Update. The Twins return to the road tomorrow afternoon here on Fox Sports North. Twins launch the month of May with a 6-game road trip starting Monday in Houston. Our coverage begins at 6:30 with Twins Live, immediately followed by the Twins test with the Astros.
Entering play today, the Astros, one of the huge disappointments in baseball. They, like the Twins, 7 wins, 17 losses. Twins trying to head there with their 8th win of the season. And Ryan Pressly will try to pitch a scoreless 8th inning.
Bullpens have done a pretty good job, both for the Tigers and now for the Twins. Fernando Abad pitching the 3rd of an inning, and Trevor May a shutdown inning himself. Ryan Pressly will now try to duplicate that.
Mo had a quick inning. Trevor May did not. And there's a first pitch strike. And Pressly, like May, can hit 93, 94 miles per hour. If anything, I think Pressly's breaking ball is sharper than Trevor May's, but May has that changeup that Pressly doesn't have yet. 1 strike. And as we said, when Martinez got a base hit hooking a liner into the right field corner in the 6th, the Twins will be glad to see him and the Tigers leave town. He's 8 for 12 in this series, and there haven't been any cheap ones. They've been line drives and very well hit balls. Pressly hopes to get him out here, and also hopes that Twins don't have to face him again in this series. Another liner for a base hit. Santana will cut it off, and Martinez is aboard with a leadoff single. Man, can this guy hit?
Well, when he's dialed in, it seems like the ball must be a beach ball coming into him. He's able to put the barrel of the bat with a quality swing, and that ball's down. That's a pitcher's pitch. And yet, and his head didn't even look like he was looking at the ball there, but his eyes were.
Fox Tracks presented by Carrier. So the leadoff man is on, and now Justin Upton, who has 2 opposite field singles.
Paul Molitor also talking about Ryan Pressly, and really, if you think about the job that Pressly and Abad have done in that bullpen, where would the Twins be without their efforts? They've been really, really good this year.
Fouled back 1-1. The thought was, at least my thought was, coming out of spring training, this Twins bullpen would be just fine if people just performed at the level that they performed last year. Glenn Perkins was shaky, then got hurt. Kevin Jepson's been shaky. Pressly's been really good. Trevor May seems to be getting better with every outing. Abad has been a godsend. 1-1. Swing and a miss at a high fastball. 96 miles per hour by Pressly on that pitch.
And I think when you look at the closer right now, Kevin Jepson, Paul Molitor is satisfied with it. You know, I think he has been a little bit victimized by some bad luck, but overall I think his stuff is getting better now that the weather is somewhat warming up.
So Pressly gives Upton the curve here. Oh, high fastball, and Upton did well to get a piece of that up and in, and he managed to foul it back. Pressly reaching back for a couple of extra miles per hour here. The last 2 pitches have been clocked at 96.
Good to see his arm healthy again. He has a big arm.
Fouled away. Coming right at Upton with fastballs. Castellanos on deck. Base hit to left. Another fastball. And Pressly's greeted with a pair of singles here to start the 8th inning. Target Field suites are available for single game rental for groups of 16 to 150 plus. Enjoy a climate controlled experience and a great view of a Twins game with food and beverage included. Learn more at twinsbaseball.com/groups or call 800-33-TWINS to schedule your suite at Target Field. Romine will run now for Victor Martinez, so at least he won't be hitting anymore in this series. But a much faster runner now in scoring position. Upton with 3 hits. And now Castellanos, who clobbered a breaking ball for a 3-run game-tying home run his last time up.
Yeah, the big hit of the game really so far, the one that's sort of quieted down the crowd. Twins had a nice 3-run lead, and with one swing of the bat, the last pitch that Ricky Nolasco threw, he tied it up.
Castellanos lays off the cutter or quicker breaking ball. Ball 1. Back to the fastball and a called strike.
Can't have a better spot than that right there. Talk about down and away and hitting that lower quadrant of the strike zone. That's picture perfect.
There's a breaking ball down and away, and he gets a wild swing and a miss.
That second swing right there from Castellanos was created by that first pitch. They're able to dot that ball down and away and then throw a breaking ball that starts off in the same spot. It's awful hard for a hitter to distinguish the difference when it's 90 miles an hour or better.
Liner, double play.
Caught a break.
A bullet to Escobar, and the Twins get a huge break with Presley coming back. Another breaking ball, and Castellanos swinging it well. He hit a rocket to the Twins shortstop.
Sometimes you need a break. You can see how Escobar is ready to shuffle the ball back over to first base. Romine, as a base runner, he's coming in to not get doubled off, but the ball's hit that hard, you can't help but react and want to score, thinking that it might be by him. You turn around and look, and it's in his glove, and you're dead.
Saltalamacchia with 2 down and a runner at first. Saltalamacchia 1 for 3, singled as a right-handed batter in the 6th inning. Swing and a miss. Twins bullpen taking over after the Castellanos game-tying home runs. They've given up 4 singles, but so far no runs. 1 strike to Saltalamacchia. It's deep to the left field corner, chased by Rosario. A 1-hopper off the wall, runner to third. They're going to wave him around. Here's Escobar juggling the throw, and the run scores. With 2 down, Upton off with the crack of the bat, and Rosario to Escobar, and Escobar unable to pull the trigger on the throw, and the Tigers are back in front. Another opposite field hit for the Tigers, and this one putting them in front for the first time this afternoon.
I think if Escobar can field this ball cleanly on the relay, there was a chance, there was a play, because Upton hesitated as he was coming around third base. You see Rosario doing what he can. He makes a good throw to Escobar, and we're not going to see Upton there in that shot, but he came around third and looked like he was going to hold up and then continued on.
Strike on the outside corner. I'm not sure he was ever really waved home by Clark, but he didn't stop him. So Upton came home, and there you can see Escobar turning and unable to get a grip on the baseball. So 3 hits here in the 8th off of Presley. And the one batter that was retired, Castellanos, lined into a double play. Justin Wilson, a left-hander, warming up with the Tigers now leading. He'll pitch the bottom of the 8th. Swing and a miss, and that takes care of it. Presley touched for 3 hits and a run, and the Tigers are in front.
Here in the 8th inning. Stick with us after the game for Twins Live, presented by CenturyLink. We'll talk about how Joe Mauer continues to stay hot with another big day today, and the decision to start Oswaldo Arcia pays off with some huge hits, timely hitting all day long, and of course we'll hear from Paul Molitor. That's all coming your way next on Twins Live.
Well, the Tigers in front now in the late innings. The Twins are going to have to try to come back here. They'll have to try to start a comeback here in the 8th inning. A guy who hasn't given up anything in terms of runs. Both Wilsons have been very good for the Tigers out of the bullpen. Justin Wilson gets the next chance.
He's been a left-hander that Brad Ausmus certainly can depend on, and using him later in the game when the games are on the line. Like Fernando Abad does not have an ERA yet this season. Mike Avila is going to take over for Nick Castellanos at third.
Eduardo Escobar takes strike 1. Tigers using 2 bench players here in the 8th inning. Escobar trying to get aboard. Outside 1-1. Another big 2-out hit by the Tigers. This time an opposite field double by Saltalamacchia, putting them in front. Escobar 0 for 3. Suzuki will bat next, then Rosario. Fouled away, 1-2.
Here's what I saw with Justin Upton in that last half inning. You can see he's charging around second base. He gets to third base and he's kind of watching. He just stops right there, just hesitates. He was trying to pick up Dave Clark, the third base coach, and I don't know if he ever saw him, but he continued on, and then when Escobar bobbled the ball, he was able to score easily.
This to right center field and down for a hit. A little flare for a leadoff single. Well, based on what we saw earlier, maybe Dave Clark was over by the Tiger on deck circle. Maybe that's why he couldn't find him. So the Twins get the leadoff man on in the 8th. That'll bring up Kurt Suzuki.
It's been a seesaw battle here. Both teams taking and losing the lead a couple times, and now The Twins with an opportunity with their leadoff man on.
Well, just imagine a world now where the Twins tie this up. Maybe we have extra innings for the 4th Sunday. And the Tigers have taken out their 2 hottest hitters. Victor Martinez left for a pinch runner. Castellanos left for Aviles. Here is Suzuki. Drove in a run with a fly ball his last time up.
The Tigers' only remaining bench player right now is backup catcher Bobby Wilson. Twins still have Nunez, Polanco, and John Ryan Murphy on the bench.
Well, let's see if the Twins can get things tied up first and whether the substitutions matter. Twins have done that too. Ron Gardenhire would regularly take Jason Kubel out when Kubel was hitting 300, hitting 20-some home runs a year, but pinch running for him late in close ball games, and that's in essence what.
It's hard to take his bat out of the lineup. You know, if it's going to be a close game. Victor Martinez has just been on fire here.
Paul Molitor earlier this year. Suzuki takes a ball, took Sano out when the Twins had a lead. They taking Sano out for a better right fielder, and then with Genoa, game got turned around, and Sano's spot in the batting order came up in the 9th inning, and it wasn't Sano, it was, I believe, Rosario. 1-0. Suzuki squares, puts down a bunt, and it's a good one. Suzuki tagged by Wilson, and Escobar in scoring position. And Rosario will step up with a chance to tie the game with a base hit.
Kurt Suzuki doing a good job there. That's all he was asked to do, get down a good bunt, force the pitcher to field it. He did that. Escobar advances second, so Suzuki was credited with a sacrifice bunt.
Rosario's hit a couple of line drives his last 2 times up, hoping to find some outfield grass for a landing spot and get Escobar in with the tying run. All the 2-out hitting that the Tigers have done, and now here in the 8th or 9th innings, the Twins are going to need to get a big hit here. Rosario trying to get one with 1 out in the inning. Down and away, ball 1. Dozier hitting in the 180s, Rosario hitting in the 190s. 2 key guys for the Twins. Rosario hoping to get maybe his biggest hit of the season on May Day. Swing and a miss, 1-1. Jepson warming up, so he'll get the 9th inning regardless. Scooped by Saltalamacchia at 2-1.
Kevin has not pitched in this series yet, so he's going to need a tune-up, whether it's in a save opportunity or just to continue the game.
Upstairs with a fastball, a swing and a miss, and it's 2-2. Just used to seeing Rosario crush those pitches. It's right down the middle of the plate.
You can see how his body's just pulling off a little bit. You've got to keep that front shoulder in and step towards the pitcher. Try to hit it up the middle. I think Eddie recognized that. His next movement was to show he tried to hit it up the middle.
3-2. Rosario with 3 walks on the year, one of those intentional. Lifted foul down the left field side. Another 3-2 to Rosario. Chop to the left side. No place for Escobar to go. And across the diamond. Aviles' throw in time for out number 2. And that'll bring up Danny Santana.
Danny will hit from the right side. An opportunity to try to score, tie this game up with a base hit.
Just one at bat as a right-handed batter against a lefty. A single and a warning track fly ball so far. The best 2 at bats for Santana. Swing and a miss, 1 strike. Fastball kind of ate up Santana a little bit. 95 miles per hour. Off the plate, 1-1. The hit by Escobar, first hit the Twins had since Arcia's RBI single in the 5th. Had 8 batters in a row retired by an assortment of Detroit relievers. 1-1. Now 1-2.
Just a little bit of shadows starting to creep in front of the batter's box. It's still on the dirt part, but there is that transition where it's going to be tougher for the hitters to see the baseball and track it all the way.
1-2 to the Twin center fielder. Nothing but fastballs.
Yeah, Wilson's trying to go away, get him out away. He's got 2 fastballs that Danny wasn't able to make any contact with up and away. And he's going to stick with that plan, I think.
Two and 2. And getting a piece to stay alive. Another fastball in the mid-90s. Tigers have scored their last 4 runs on 2 out hits, and the Twins need one here now from Santana to tie it up. A strikeout instead. Escobar left at second base, and we go to the 9th with the Tigers up a run. hits late for the Tigers, including Castellanos' 3-run home run. And then Saltalamacchia's RBI hit with 2 out in the 8th inning. It's a 1-run Tiger lead. Kevin Jepson comes out of the Twins pen to try to keep this game 6-5.
When you have a closer, you've got to keep him somewhat sharp. Kevin hasn't pitched in this series, and they need to have him get an inning of work. Hopefully there can be some magic spun up there. Kevin can get through this inning cleanly, and the Twins in the bottom of the 9th can do some damage.
Iglesias will lead things off, then Kinsler and J.D. Martinez. Strike 1. Jepson taking over the closer's role when Glenn Perkins went on the disabled list. He's had 3 misfires and save opportunities this year. Chopped foul. Foul tip, I should say. 0-2. Perkins gradually is expected to return for the Twins. Plouffe's return is more imminent. Twins hope to have him in the lineup Tuesday. Up high.
Certainly have been a lot of changes in the month of April. Spring training, what you see coming out of spring training, it's typical nowadays in the way the game's played that you won't have the same roster a month later.
Right center field, and that'll die in front of Arcia for a flared hit off the bat of Iglesias. Leadoff man is on. Time now for What's Next, brought to you by CenturyLink. As the Twins wrap up this series, Tigers will head to Cleveland. Off day tomorrow, then they'll take on a Cleveland team that went to Philadelphia and lost 3 one-run ball games. And the Twins in Houston will have Jose Barrios in his 2nd major league game, taking on Dallas Keuchel, who has struggled after his Cy Young season last year. Kinsler will be the batter. And the Indians lost a couple of heartbreaking games here before they went to Philly, and then they lost 3 straight one-run ball games.
Those are hard. Those are hard when they happen all within a week.
Outside, ball 1. The first place White Sox won again, beating Baltimore 7-1 behind Chris Sale. So if the Twins don't turn this game around, they will be 10.5 games behind the first place White Sox. Swing and a miss, 1-1.
And I don't care what time of year it is, when you look up in the score and you see yourself 10 games or more out, it's a long, tough road to get back in contention.
Well, the Twins, of course, had the 20-win season last year in May. It was, as it turned out, their only winning month of the season. There goes the runner, and the ball skips past Suzuki. And going in, standing up at second base with a stolen base is Iglesias. You've got to kind of, I suppose, disconnect yourself from the standings when you are where the Twins are, and just get back to the elementary concept of just playing better baseball and see where that leads you come July or August.
Well, it led them in a very nice direction in the month of May last year. You know, obviously it's a tougher April than it was a year ago for the Twins, but found hope.
Liner and safe at second. I don't think that they would have had Iglesias doubled off anyway, but Escobar did drop the ball. Another line drive out. Tough night for Kinsler. He's hit 3 balls right on the button for outs and is 0 for 5. You know, when the Royals got to the World Series for the first time since '85 and 2014. You know, a lot of people were surprised, and I guess I was surprised too. But the year before that, they had, I forget whether it was 4 or 5 winning months. That's when you know you're ready to turn the corner in my book. Now, the Twins had the great May last year and ended up finishing above 500. But this Twins team still has, you know, 5 months to put together winning months. And boy, when you're where you are right now, where the Twins are, 10 games below 500. Just winning months. There's a high fly to right. And the wind will help push that back. Now the wind coming in from the plaza. Garcia's throw, a strong one, and right on the button. But Iglesias advances 2 away.
Well, you're absolutely right about the mindset that the players have to think right now. You really can't look up at the scoreboard. You've got to focus on one game at a time, and you just got to look in the mirror sometimes and say, what can I do? How can I improve my game that'll benefit the team, and overall we'll figure out ways to start winning ball games.
2 down, Cabrera the batter. Romine the on deck hitter, with the Tigers having taken Victor Martinez, thankfully, out of the game. Well, backhanded, knocked down by Dozier, and he makes the play. Still conditioned to believe a hard hit ball up the middle might be a base hit, but Dozier was shifted, and the Tigers come up empty in the ninth. And a finish. Endings are imposed and inflicted. Struck him out. Got him. Breaking ball, got him. Finishes are earned and celebrated. A drive to right field. Going back and gone. How about that? It's the last word, the closing act, the final step, the whole point. We don't remember the start. We never forget the finish. Lace to center field. Dozier around third, and the Twins walk off the Indians again. This homestand started with a couple of dramatic walk-off wins, and the Twins are hoping now to finish off the homestand with one. Brian Dozier will lead off the 9th inning. Mauer and Sano will follow against the new Tiger closer, Francisco Rodriguez.
In his 11th game, and he's getting a little bit better each time out there. A lot of that ugliness in his ERA and stuff happened earlier in the year, but more and more confidence from Brad Ausmus and Rich Doobie, the pitching coach for the Tigers.
Dozier swings and misses, 1 strike.
Yeah, this is just one swing away from tying this ball game. The Twins are still within reach, even though they're down to their last at bats here in the 9th inning. It's a 1-run ball game. Somehow it sometimes appears worse than it is.
And a breaking ball gets a swing and a miss, 0-2. Dozier with a walk and a run scored. Breaking ball missing. One of the adjustments Rodriguez has had to make in season is increasing his arm angle on his fastball. He was looking at video. He saw that while his arm was up on the changeup, but when he threw his fastball, it was down more 3/4, and so he's tried to bring his arm angle up and get a better angle on his fastball.
Yeah, it's really not getting that much more velocity, but it's helping his changeup because it's in the same arm position,
right?
Same arm slot. And here's the fastball, and you can see the tail it gets. Well, we just get to see his delivery there, but the ball did run quite well down and in on Brian Dozier.
2-2. Pulled foul. $18 hits for Dozier. 8 of them for extra bases, 5 doubles, 3 home runs. Full count on a pitch in the dirt. Bauer will follow, then Sano. Twins have had 3 walk-off wins already this year, looking for their 4th. Full count to Dozier. On the ground, Iglesias plays the second hop and throws him out. And that'll bring up Mauer. Mauer with 3 hits and a fly ball to left.
Having a very good series. You can see by the numbers down there. 6 for 12 in this series. Twins need base runners, so Joe's going to have to keep it going.
He's 1 for 7 in his matchups over the years against Rodriguez. Ball 1. See the Tiger infield alignment, and they're guarding the line at first base, but the third base line's pretty wide open, so not really a no doubles defense.
Yeah, you saw the first pitch. He pitched away.
I'll say if you were going to try to deny Mauer a double, you'd be more inclined, wouldn't you, to guard the third base line rather than the first base line?
Well, especially if you're going to pitch him away. And that's where sometimes the positioning coach, the outfield coach who's on the bench, is not really clicking with the catcher's signal calling.
1-1. Swing and a miss. 1-2.
It's kind of a funny swing, and you can see the shadows again halfway between the mound and the batter's box. And it looked like Joe just didn't pick that ball up there. He was very tardy on a not very high fastball, 88-mile-an-hour fastball from Rodriguez.
In the dirt, 2-2. Sano on deck, hoping to hit here in the 9th inning with Mauer aboard. Two and 2 to Mauer. Tap to the right side. Cabrera fields. Rodriguez to the bag. He's got that foot down before Mauer got there. 2 down, and it'll be left to Miguel Sano.
Rodriguez throws the changeup in that situation. Joe just out in front a little bit, just didn't square it up the way he has in a few of the previous at-bats. Now the Twins, like you mentioned, down to the last out.
Sano with a walk, 2 hits, and a lineout. Trying to keep the game alive for the Twins. Strike on the outside corner. That's about it for Rodriguez in terms of velocity. Upper 80s. He has transitioned quite well in terms of being a closer. Used to throw about 10 miles per hour harder. Driven to right field. This to the corner. Martinez tracking it. Can't get there. Sano has his 3rd hit. He'll round second and try for 3rd, and he is out. Miguel Sano with a base running mistake after a double, and the Tigers sweep the Twins.
Very unfortunate there. Cardinal rule, you never make the last out at 3rd base. And Miguel thought maybe that ball would ricochet around out there in right field. The Tigers doing a really good job of the relay here. JD Martinez gets the ball and makes an accurate throw to the cutoff man, Jose Iglesias, who just really flips the ball right over to Aviles at 3rd, and easy out.
Sano giving the Twins a big 2-out hit, but a base running mistake to end the game, and Park is left in the on-deck circle. And the Twins have been swept by their 3rd different American League Central opponent. Tigers come in, and Tom Hanneman, the Twins will hit the road with a 2-4 record on this homestand.
Dick, no rest for the weary. The Twins, as you say, return to the road. They will be in Houston tomorrow. We'll talk about that next on Twins Live, presented by CenturyLink. Joe Mauer's Day. Oswaldo Arcia. We'll hear from Paul Molitor, and we'll look ahead to the road as well.